I do not see enough people talking about what took place in both of these pictures. You had Kanye and Young Thug both meet this man right here, and they're both holding his hand. Kanye and Young Thug both have something in common right now. Both of their music careers is going down the drain. They're on a decline, fool. Y'all know who they say run the whole music industry, right?
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys. We talk about the most scarce and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, that's gonna make us question everything. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
History that you definitely have not heard before. Apparently, Buzz Aldrin was difficult to work with, so Neil Armstrong almost replaced him for the Apollo 11 mission, but he ended up going. JFK was rejected from military service due to health issues during World War II, but because of his connections that his father had, he was able to still join the U.S. Navy. Eisenhower had an alternate speech ready if D-Day failed, where he takes full responsibility for the failure and where he calls the decision to attack his decision, stating if any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone. The Navy constructed a 300-foot ice cream barge during World War II, producing 10 gallons every 7 minutes to raise the morale in the Pacific. Creative, I guess. The Colosseum in Rome once had 80 different entrances to get in, with 4 of them being for the VIP high stature people. And now there's only 3 entrances total in the entire Coliseum. There is a typo on the Lincoln Memorial. Specifically, the word future was initially engraved as future due to an error by the artist who made it. Apparently, he accidentally grabbed an E stencil instead of an F during the engraving process. Now you know.
We're all living in different realities. That's why none of this makes sense.
I don't think enough people realize that neuroscience shows that you don't live in the same reality as anyone else. And I'll tell you why this is so important, but first, the science. Every single person's brain is constructing a different version of this world. This is how the brain works. It doesn't show you reality, it shows you your version of it. You don't even see the world with your eyes. Your eyes just take in light signals. And then those light signals travel through the brain where your thoughts, emotions, memories, and belief systems are all incorporated before the image is put together that you see. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are based on the way your brain is wired. And this is important because it perfectly explains why you should not listen to what anybody says or thinks about your life. Because any rules or advice that anybody gives to you is based on their version of reality, their limits, their possibilities, their brain's wiring. And I'll give you an example because everybody says you need to post every single day on social media to grow a platform. I have never done that, and I have almost 2 million followers on here. Trying to play the game of life by somebody else's rules is like trying to play Mario Kart while following the rules of Call of Duty. It doesn't make sense.
This explains so well why people disagree.
As of today, there is another big update on 3i Atlas. According to this report in the New York Post, NASA to release best quality images of Manhattan-sized interstellar object 3i Atlas.
Whoa.
And reveal its true nature. So if this all turns out to be true, then that would mean that NASA has been tracking 3i Atlas and has been recording its every movement. According to a lot of unconfirmed reports, this is actually a real image of 3i Atlas. And if it turns out to be a real image of 3i Atlas, it actually shows the vapor trail, meaning that this could be powered by something unknown. Some have questioned where the images were taken of 3i Atlas by NASA. The story goes into detail and claims that they were taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter HERSS camera as it passed by the red planet from October 1st to October 7th. Also, why they were not released? Because of the government shutdown. So keep this in the back of your mind. As I say in all of these videos, take this video as entertainment purposes only. It is for the purpose of entertainment. And why do I say that? Because until we see anything or get an official update from any state, local, or government officials, this is just entertainment purposes only. So let me know your thoughts in the comments as to, will NASA release the images of 3i Atlas? Or is this just another distraction from something else? Or do we have something to be concerned about with 3i Atlas? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
All
This
three.
two-headed shark is going to haunt my nightmares. Here's an absolutely massive two-headed shark puppet statue type thing in water. Let's talk about it. It was made for the hilariously laughable Two-Headed Shark Attack movie. That was one of those really horrible movies like Sharknado. And here's what it looks like in storage. This thing is absolutely horrifying. I hate it. These are behind the scenes photos. These are fake. TikTok, these are fake. And these are people in comparison to it. This is how big they are. And I had to make it black and white because otherwise TikTok would not allow it on here. I hate these. Could you imagine getting in the water with those things? Like, look how big it is in comparison to old girl over here. Oh my god, I could not get in the water with this thing. I don't care how fake it looks. I hate it. Like, look at bro. He looks extremely sinister. And there's two heads on this thing. This is gross. This is what the CGI of bro looks like under the water. That is horrifying. I don't care if it's fake. I am terrified. I don't like it. I don't like it, y'all. I don't like it. How do we feel? By the way, they didn't stop at Two-Headed Shark Attack. They also have Three-Headed Shark Attack. Apparently they skipped 4 because I couldn't find it. 5-Headed Shark Attack. And 6-Headed Shark Attack. Can they stop?
Here's some
You gotta keep
disturbing
going.
facts you probably didn't know. According to Abraham Lincoln's bodyguard, Crook, Lincoln had dreams about his assassination for 3 nights straight before the night of his death. On the night of the play, Lincoln was reluctant to go but felt he was obligated to because of the public. He was scheduled to be escorted by his new bodyguard, John Parker, who had previous history of being unreliable. He was quoted as saying, "I have perfect confidence in those who are around me, in every one of your men, but if it is to be done, it is impossible to prevent it." Before leaving, he said goodbye Crook instead of his usual goodnight. Parker, the bodyguard scheduled to guard the door where Lincoln resided, left and went to the local saloon at some point during the play and never returned. Because of his absence, John Wilkes Booth was able to easily get through the door and assassinate the president, just as he had dreamt of the 3 nights prior. Parker was tried for neglection of duty but was later dismissed, and no transcripts of the case were kept. Lincoln's grieving wife, Mary, decided to move back to Illinois after her husband's death, and was assigned a bodyguard to escort her there safely. That bodyguard was Parker.
That's crazy, bro. He really was dreaming that for 3 days straight, man. The mind is a powerful thing, man. As we've seen watching these clips together with you guys, bro. Your mind sending you, it's like an early warning system, man. Trust your gut.
I be cooked. We are next for the digital IDs. Apple has just rolled out the software where you can put your digital ID on it and you can travel with it. Which means, y'all know what's coming next? Mandatory digital IDs in the U.S. Yes, we saw what happened in the UK. You couldn't travel. You couldn't get to a certain city without having this. And now they're bringing it to the U.S. This is all part of the BEAST system. I don't see how y'all don't see it yet. Apple introduces new digital ID, a new way to create and present an ID in Apple Wallet. Oh, it's nothing. It's just your digital ID in Apple Wallet. We already have apps to see your normal ID. The digital ID is not the same as your normal ID. Like, make it click. Listen, they have to get the world on one accord. It is not a coincidence that this specific digital ID is happening in different countries around the world.
Which is insane to even think. From studies that have been conducted in people who are infected by this, it shows that they're more likely to take extreme risks and also more aggressive behaviour tendencies. The scary thing though is that it's estimated around 30% of people could actually have this but wouldn't even know because the symptoms are so light. Over 2 billion people are believed to potentially be living with this right now. There's no way to really get rid of it. Some of the symptoms that you could experience if you do have this. One of the most common ways though is uncooked food and unwashed vegetables, so make sure you cook things through thoroughly because you could then get it and wouldn't even realise.
I do not see enough people talking about what took place in both of these pictures. You had Kanye and Young Thug both meet this man right here, and they're both holding his hand. This shit look weird. Kanye and Young Thug both have something in common right now. Both of their music careers is going down the drain. They're on a decline, fool. Y'all know who they say run the whole music industry, right? Or the whole industry in general. Like entertainment and all of that, right? With that being said, could this be some little ritual, some shit going on? I don't know. All I know is that this shit is weird. If y'all haven't seen the videos, go watch them. I remember Kanye said he would never be sorry for something he said. But on this video, he was definitely saying sorry. You know what they say? It may look like a duck, but if it don't quack like a duck, it's not a duck. And this man looked like Kanye, but he did not sound like Kanye, fool. You don't know what I'm talking about? Go watch the video. Y'all let me know down below in the comments if y'all think I'm tripping. Or am I onto something?
But y'all
Yeah,
are the first ones to say ghosts and spirits ain't real. But what the fuck is this? Look at this shit. Look at this shit right here.
I'm looking at me through that window.
I need you to pay attention to everything in this video. Because you might miss it.
Be a little
You ain't see it?
delusional.
Not the window,
But I think
but the wall. So this be shot of this shit for you. Look at this shit. I want you to take another look and tell me what you see. In the video, when the kid starts to move closer, that shit right there moves out the way. Do you see that shit right there? And for those of y'all in the back that don't believe, look at that shit right there. Tell me what that is. When I was looking at the video, I'm saying to myself, I don't see nothing. I didn't until I slowed it down. And if you look back in that video, that same shit right there moved out the way when the kid moved. You don't believe me, right? Okay, give me a second. Now look.
I see something looking at me through
That shit peeked his head out, and when that kid got up, that shit hurried up and got out the way. Look, and this is the same reason right here why I do not like going over other people's houses. And this is the reason right here why I do not like people to come over my house. That babysitting money, they could have kept that shit. Pay attention. They are out here. They are out here. I'm out.
Was black magic just used in a World Cup qualifier? So last night, Nigeria and DR Congo played, but only one could qualify. Now, Nigeria ended up losing on penalties despite their best efforts at sabotage. But the wild part is their head coach is blaming it on voodoo. Footage shows in the final moments of the penalty shootout, chaos erupting as Coach Chile was trying to confront someone on Congo's team, not once, but twice. But in a bizarre post-match interview, he was asked why he got so angry.
During all the penalty session, the guy of Congo did some voodoo. Every time. So this is why I was a little nervous after him. What did you see? Yeah, something like that. You know, with the I don't know if it's a water or something like that. You know, so.
Now, with this result, the whole of Nigeria is heartbroken right now. But considering this is the second time in a row they failed to qualify, that raises the question: is there some voodoo involved, or was the coach just a little salty? Did you hear about?
I can't lie, bro. Imagine losing me. To say it, bro, it was voodoo. I mean, who knows? It could be, bro. We didn't see the motion of the other guy he was going after, but he said it was like a water bottle. I don't know if he was shaking or something like that, man. I'm getting flashbacks of, Pascal Siakam. Y'all know when he playing in the finals, man, people were saying he was doing voodoo or something too, bro.
That volcano that's happening in Italy right now?
No.
Have you heard of Cape Freghe? All the time. It's sitting over this giant basin of magma. Supposedly the second most powerful supervolcano on Earth. This past week, there have been 2 major earthquakes from that mountain.
That's bad news.
So, like, if this thing goes off, we're talking like half of Italy. Mount Vesuvius, which is also in Italy, they speculate that the magma, it's like connected. If Campe Allegre went off, Mount Vesuvius would go off at the same time too. They said it would be so intense and catastrophic that it would send the entire Earth into a prolonged 2 to 3 year winter.
Fart.
National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology confirmed that the eruption is a present and near scenario.
Dude.
They said the global temperature would drop 2 degrees Celsius.
Like Mother Nature's curing or something.
You ever thought about humans are the virus?
If Italy gets wiped out, I'm gonna be so miffed that we've never been.
Or you'd be upset that a lot of Italian people died.
That too, obviously.
This just it. Beyblades, they're actually a real thing in early Japanese history. Wait, what? Beyblades, you know, like let it rip. Wait, but people would actually early century Japan, man. What they used to do, No, not rock. Five battles. It's called a five battle. Yeah. They would take shells that they found in the sea and they would stuff them with sweet cakes, like pastries that they cooked. And then they would have a tatami mat, you know, those like bamboo. Yeah. And they would take turns tying a string, spinning it, and it would spin on the mat. Yeah. And another person goes, and whoever's shell fell off the mat would lose.
Oh, that's kind of
It's deadass Beyblade originally, yeah.
Yo, that's crazy because like everything's custom, right? So everyone had a different Beyblade. Imagine you had a sick shell like with polka dots, man.
Yo,
oh, your
that's
Beyblade
how
was sick.
You mean she put Gorilla Glue in her hair? So y'all remember this girl back from 2021 when she put Gorilla Glue in her hair? And she couldn't get the Gorilla Glue out of her hair for weeks. So she said that she ran out of her regular hairspray. She decided that since the Gorilla Glue can is the same shape, and that since Gorilla Glue is glue and it's meant to hold things in place, similar to what her normal hairspray does, so she decided to put the Gorilla Glue on her hair, and after it took about 6 or 7 minutes to harden, she instantly knew this was the most biggest regret of her life. And this is where it gets more worse. Right away, she felt a massive headache and spent the next few hours trying to rub any type of hair products in her hair. Every type of shampoo, conditioner, oil, nothing worked. And this is where it gets even more insaner. So she decided that she needed to go to the ER, hoping that the ER had something that could help her out. But it got so much more sadder when the ER couldn't even help. The products they gave her for this situation didn't work, so she had to fly over 1,600 miles from the state of New Orleans to the state of Los Angeles to go to a special surgeon where they put this special liquid on her hair to dissolve the glue. And after like a 6 or 7 hour surgery, they removed the glue. Do you have someone in your life that would make a mistake like this?
That situation was freaking insane, bro. That update, man, was crazy, man. I remember when I dropped on the timeline, bro. People was like, there's no way that she actually did that, man. I don't know what possessed her to even put that in her hair, man. Super glue like that, bro. I don't know. Bro, this lady don't wish her that bad.
Japan is the only country that got rich without getting fat.
No, I don't.
4.5% of Japanese people are obese compared to 26% in Britain and 42.5% in the United States. So the first thing you think when you hear that is, it must just be genetic, right? They won the genetic lottery, that must be what's going on. But we know that's not true, so there's something else going on. So, and it was totally fascinating. So when I arrived there, from the age of 5, all Japanese children just leave the house and walk to school on their own. So they get a lot of exercise in the morning, and they walk home on their own as well. All processed food is banned. No one is allowed to have processed food. Every meal has to be prepared from scratch at the start of the day, and no one is allowed to bring in a packed lunch. And I remember with these kids, I was asking them their favorite foods. The first kid I asked said, my favorite food is broccoli. It's like, right. The second kid said, my favorite food is seaweed. And the third one's like, I like white rice. And I said to she, my translator, are these kids trolling me, right? Like, what their favorite foods are broccoli and like white rice. And she just looked kind of puzzled, and every Japanese person I asked said, well, we teach our children to like healthy food. Don't your children like healthy food?
Want to know what's causing all the insane auroras so many people are seeing right now? I got this comment, and it's a really good question, asking if 3i Atlas has anything to do with it. No, it doesn't have anything directly to do with it, but it's a good question. So what is causing them? Well, the auroras we're seeing right now are caused by these huge solar storms that are hitting the Earth's field. The sun has been in overdrive lately, firing off some of the strongest coronal mass ejections in years. And when those blasts of plasma hit Earth's magnetic field, they shake it up, and those charged particles spiral into our poles, colliding with oxygen, nitrogen atoms in our upper atmosphere, and that's what's causing all this green, glowing, purple, amazing lights that we're seeing way further south than usual. Now, again, 3i Atlas doesn't have anything to do with it directly, but it has been flying through the same region of space that's being bombarded by these solar storms. So these solar storms could definitely be having an effect on Atlas and the jets and the tail and everything, making it flare up so intensely. So yes, the auroras are caused by the sun's CMEs, not the comet, but the timing is interesting, of course. One of the most powerful solar storm cycles in years, and we've got a rare interstellar visitor passing right through it at the same time. Coincidence or cosmic rhythm? Don't know.
All these things are connected, bro. Right now, man, like I said, when I'm watching these clips together with you guys, the activity that's going on with the sun, man, solar flares is happening, bro. Like, all the freaking, I think social media is there right now, X or Twitter right now, whatever you call it, is there because of the solar flares, bro. So, that 3i Atlas, man, not a lot of people even know about it. that's going on right now. I guarantee if you walk up to a person on the street and say, what's 3i Atlas, they have no idea. So I'm grateful watching these clips together with you guys.
So y'all, tell me why the Africans was trying to leave too, and we didn't even know nothing about this. What is going on? Hold on, Africans. I thought, what is going on? Tell me why they tried to leave, y'all, and they found out that they were not getting raptured either, y'all. What is going on? Look at this. This is last night. So last night at about midnight, 2 of the students at this university went missing, and then people were hearing trumpet sounds. Maybe they were practicing for a band. I have no idea, but it started up rallying up some energies. And I guess all the other Africans in the village got the message, so they all met in this forest waiting to be raptured. They were looking up in the sky like there was a huge mothership. Do y'all hear that yelling? So, I mean, obviously they're still here. So what is going on? So I just want to know, how come nobody on our side was talking about getting raptured? It was everybody but us. Did we not get the message, y'all? Did somebody's not talking to us? Somebody's not talking to us. Just like, why they always. So you know me, right? I did the digging, and apparently it was a pastor in Africa that started the whole rapture rumor in the first place. And I hear this dude is literally apologizing to the whole Africa. Check this video out.
The dude who started the whole rapture fiasco within the Christian community is a pastor from South Africa named Joshua. He went online or like a TED Talk or something. He was like, yo, I had the vision. God is talking to me. He told me that the rapture is coming on the 23rd to the 24th. And that's how everybody got into frenzy. Tell me why this man just released a video apologizing, saying he was wrong about the rapture. Mind you, the people that's still in the time zone of within the time frame he gave, they still waiting.
They already told us that in the end days that false prophets will step forward and proclaim this and proclaim that. But everything is within, y'all. And now these people, they lost their whole life savings. They sold everything and cashed out on life itself, waiting for some man to come save them. So now what you guys gonna do, okay? But let me know if you guys were a part of this, y'all. Like, follow, share for more videos like this. The shift is here. They ain't going nowhere. Let's get it. Peace.
Ask me ever again to get on a ride. This right here is the reason I don't do it. Even the worker ran out and she's not even on the ride.
This man actually exists. This is the real-life Lizard Man. His name is Eric Sprague, and he has the nickname Lizard Man. He's well known for his many body modifications, piercings, tattoos, sharpened teeth, and even a split tongue. It took over 700 hours to get his entire body tattooed. And so far, he spent $300,000 to transform himself into the Lizard Man. And he says that he's very happy with his transformation.
I think by
the Lizard Man, bro, that's my first time seeing him, man. We saw the Alien Man, Lizard Man. What's next? Tiger Man, Catwoman. We've actually seen the Catwoman.
At this point, we all know the dangers of hot cars in the summer, and it is unacceptable that any child be left in a car to die. But this child was in the care of a state-contracted worker when he was left alone for 5 hours and died in the hot car. This is 3-year-old Katorius KJ Starks Jr. He was living with a foster family, and on Friday, July 22nd, he was at daycare and then was headed to a visit with his father. The person responsible for getting him there was Keila Stanford, a third-party worker contracted by the Alabama Department of Human Resources. On the morning of July 22nd, the family said Stanford picked KJ up from the daycare to drive him to see his father. The visit, which was part of a court-ordered process for the parents to regain their custody of KJ, ended around 11:30 a.m. According to the family's attorney, Courtney French, quote, rather than properly returning KJ immediately to daycare, the worker made numerous personal errands with KJ buckled in a car seat in the back of her car. Stanford went home at around 12:30 p.m., leaving KJ strapped inside the vehicle with all windows up and the car engine off. He was left in that parked car outside of her home for more than 5 hours. Eventually, the daycare reached out to Stanford to ask her why KJ hadn't been returned, and it was only then that she realized he was still in her car. She called 911, but at 6:30 p.m., KJ was pronounced dead. During the time window when KJ was left alone in the car, temperatures topped 96 degrees and heat index values ranged from 101 to 105 degrees. Stanford was arrested and booked at the Jefferson County Jail and has posted a $30,000 bond. But she will be facing charges related to KJ's death. According to KJ's family, he was a bright little boy. He was only 3 years old. Rest in peace, KJ.
That
Do
young
not
man.
eat any of these things. I must be really hungry because these turtles look exactly like avocados. You can't tell me that this rock doesn't look like a loaf of bread. And this tree looks a little bit too much like sliced bacon. Why does this deodorant have to look like a delicious popsicle? And definitely don't eat these because they're actually fridge magnets. Noodles or rubber bands? Okay, this pug and this loaf of bread could be twins. Did somebody drop their bread? Just kidding, it's actually a rock. This tarp looks exactly like a delicious burrito. Okay, this one really had me fooled. That's not fried chicken, it's actually a crystal rock.
This is real footage of Lori Shaver walking down the aisle to marry her new husband after murdering and burying her previous husband in her backyard. This all started in 2015 when 36-year-old Michael Shaver mysteriously disappeared in Florida. His friends and family immediately became worried, but his wife Lori claimed that he abandoned her and the kids and that he wanted to start a new life. However, Michael's friends and family tried to get in touch with him but could never reach him. Eventually, Michael messaged his close friends and family and asked to be left alone. Then, not even a year later, Lori meets a man named Travis Filmer. They quickly got married and they had this beautiful ceremony with both their friends and family in Lori's backyard, which was this huge 5-acre property. At this point, 3 years go by since anyone's heard anything from Michael, and no one has filed a missing persons report. It wasn't until one day his close friend noticed that Michael was uploading very strange photos on Facebook, and he felt like something was off, so he asked police if they could go to his house where he lived with Lori and do a welfare check. The officer went to the backyard, which again was this huge 5-acre property, and described having this weird feeling. He said that Lori's demeanor was completely calm, like she had nothing to hide, and then he notices a cement slab with the outline of what appeared to be a human body. They quickly got a search warrant and they began digging in the backyard, and it wasn't long until they found Michael's body buried under the cement, which turns out was actually poured with the help of Lori's new husband. Her new husband testified and said that he had no idea that Michael's body was laying there and believed the story that Lori was telling everyone. So this entire time, Lori was the one logging into Michael's Facebook and uploading all these strange photos and responding to his friends and family pretending to be him. Now, things get even crazier because when Lori was arrested, she pled not guilty, and her defense tried to pin everything on her 7-year-old daughter, claiming that she shot her father while trying to defend her mother. The jury was not convinced, and Lori was convicted of second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison.
To try to blame the whole thing you do, that's a new type of law that we just heard.
The bizarre beauty standards of Tudor women. The bizarre obsession with giant foreheads. Would you believe that during the Tudor dynasty, women sacrificed their eyebrows, eyelashes, and even their health for one goal: to look like an egg? That's right. Back then, the height of beauty was having a huge, smooth, and shiny forehead. The bigger, the more sophisticated. To achieve this strange ideal, women shaved the hair off their foreheads, pushed their hairlines back, and eliminated any trace of eyebrows or eyelashes that might distract from this facial monument. Unfortunately, the horror didn't stop there. Many used the infamous Venetian CESC to whiten their skin, a cream made of lead and vinegar that slowly poisoned their bodies. And the worst part is when this beauty standard became a source of shame for future generations, portraits were retouched to hide the truth.
This man saved a wolf from a trap, and a few years later it saved his life. One day, Anthony was going for a walk in the forest and came across a huge wolf. Since he was alone, he was terrified until he realized the wolf was stuck in a trap. As he approached to investigate, he realized the wolf was a female and was extremely exhausted. He knew this meant that there were starving babies around somewhere, but the wolf wouldn't trust him or let him get close. Anthony knew something had to be done, so he looked around for hours until he finally found the den. He tried tried to lure the pups out by howling, and after a while they were so hungry they finally came out of the den. Then he grabbed them and loaded them into his bag and took them back to the mother. When he let them out, they happily ran back to the mother. He then knew he had to find some food, so he looked around until he came across a deer that had passed away. He dragged it back to the wolves, which would keep them fed for a few days. Then he set up camp nearby and the pups woke him up in the morning. He then decided to attempt to try and earn the wolf's trust enough for him to set the mother free. For days he fed, talked to, and approached the wolf until the wolf finally let him put his hand on her injured paw. And it gets even better, so hit the plus for part 2.
That sounds like a movie plot, bro.
Average age to lose virginity by country. Belgium, 17.2 years old. Portugal, 16.9 years old. Bulgaria, 16.9 years old.
Keeps going lower.
Israel, 16.7 years old. Finland, 16.5 years old. Norway, 16.5 years old. Sweden, 16.2 years old.
Lower again.
Denmark, 16.1 years old. Iceland,
is it gonna stop?
15.6 years old.
An alleged serial killer in Argentina has been arrested at a house filled with body parts. A 37-year-old man has been arrested after at least 5 people were murdered in a town in Argentina. Police say the man lured homeless people into his house, killed them, and then dismembered their bodies. And these murders always took place on Fridays. The suspect was arrested after police raided his home and found, quote, bones, blood, pieces of skin, and even a nose. During the police raid, authorities encountered the man's 16-year-old nephew, who allegedly told authorities that his uncle would go out on Fridays and return with different people each night, most of them either homeless or elderly. The nephew told authorities that his uncle would, quote, beat them, kill them, cut their bodies, burn them, and take them out in garbage bags. The man has been dubbed the Machete Man by local media outlets. While not yet identified by police, A24 News Channel identified the man as Matias Dorado, a local resident who neighbors said allegedly threatened people with machetes, set fires, carried suspicious bags, and rolled around wheelbarrows at night. But neighbors say they never suspected he was a serial killer, but evidence found inside his home says otherwise. Jurado insists he is innocent, but he has been charged with aggravated homicide. And hopefully a serial killer has been taken off the street. Rest in peace to all of the victims.
You were today years old when you found this out, food edition. Number 1, the next time you're at McDonald's, fold down your ketchup pot to make a full-on plate for your fries. It's so helpful. Number 2, the lids of plastic cups at takeaways can actually come down and work as coasters. Check this out. They fit absolutely perfect. And at number 3, microwaves actually have a silent mode. That's right, go to your microwave and hold down the 0, the 1 and the cancel button and it will be as quiet as a mouse.
This has got to be the funniest trend of the year so far. So people are recreating this old phone call that Kai Cenat had with his mom on stream. These recreations go something like,
you did so good, Kai. Good boy. Good boy, you did so good, yeah.
As of right now, that is the biggest meme on TikTok. Now, this meme started becoming insanely popular when big streamers like DDG started reacting to people's videos on it. Then there were people that started to make like compilations of the best remakes of this phone call. By the way, this one is the best one hands down, like that's not even debatable. But I just gotta know who exactly came up with this trend. I mean, if you see the trend without hearing the original phone call between Kai and his mom, you'd probably think there was some Diddy stuff going on in that phone call. So if you see the trend before the phone call, the actual phone call is low-key disappointing. Like, I was expecting his mom to be on there like,
I'm about to know you're number 1. My son number 1. I'm about to know.
Okay, I gotta go.
Yeah, they turned their phone call into something else. I'm guessing that was Kai mom's congratulating him and they turned
I'm
that
about to read your palms and
else.
tell you what it means. Right, first I need you to put your hands together and observe what line pattern you have. Now that you've observed your hand's line pattern, let me tell you what it means, because it could mean a lot more than you think. Number 1, if your left hand line is lower than your right. This means that you're independent and you do not care what other people think about you. You also keep your opinion to yourself and will become very wise over the years. Oh yeah, and you're a very romantic person. Number 2, if your right hand line is lower than your left. This means that you're an aggressive person but you love challenges. You're also self-confident and you do not run into relationships. And finally, number 3, the rarest of them all, if your lines are the same. This means that you're strong-minded and probably charming. You're also sensitive and care about other people's opinions. You also crave love but you do not go around asking for it.
Oh no! Video games are getting more expensive. It'd be a shame if somebody compiled a list of all the places you could try to find cracked games. Just be careful with your computer though, please. Don't click on any sketchy download buttons. I understand that this is a skill that you have to learn. Okay, it's 2025. Don't click on any .rar files called definitely not malware.xex. Don't install anything with like a setup final .cmd. No bat files. Unless you want your PC to sound like a jet engine and start mining crypto for somebody in Belarus. Anyway, video games used to be $60 as the standard. Now it's $70. And Nintendo went, what if it was $80? And everybody kind of just accepted it. I mean, we threw a fit, but Nintendo didn't change anything. Games launch unfinished, you guys. They sell you the rest in a DLC, and if it breaks, it's your fault for pre-ordering. But hey, game is art, and I support artists. I'm not supporting piracy. I'm not encouraging that. Piracy is wrong. You wouldn't steal a car. You wouldn't steal a handbag. You wouldn't download a pizza. But you might just download a 120 gigabyte AAA mess that fired half the developers and locked the ending behind $30. So no, I would not recommend you check out any of these websites listed. These are not suggestions at all.
How rare? I mean, it is kind of sad about how the game price keep increases. They keep talking about how GTA 6 about to cost $100. If that's true, man, are you guys gonna pay it? You know people will pay that, man, for GTA 6, bro. They've been waiting for so long, they'll pay anything. Hopefully they don't do it, man.
Is your hair? Let's find out. About 85% of people have naturally black hair, and it's the most common worldwide, and sometimes they can look like a very dark brown. And people with darker hair tend to have more hairs per square inch on their head, which is why it normally looks thick and full. Only about 11% of people have naturally brown or brunette hair, and people with brown hair normally have medium to thick hair, with very few having thin hair. Only about 2% of people have naturally blonde hair, and blondes normally have more hair strands on their head at about 150,000, while those with brown or black hair normally have 100,000. Only about 1% of people have naturally red hair, but in Scotland, over 13% of the people have red hair. And red hair is a recessive trait, which means that each parent has to have a copy of the mutated gene. Less than 1% of people have white or gray hair, and you actually can be born naturally like this, but it is extremely rare. Less than 1% of people have hair that is 2 different colors, also called hair heterochromia. And normally when someone has this, they have hairs that are brown, blonde, or red that are in the background of darker colored hair.
The world's rarest shapes. 9 protruding lips.
Okay. Got a full set right
8
there.
thin lips. 7 Morse plate lips.
I said they put some in their lips right here, that little plate.
6 cherub lips. 5 bee stung lips.
You got stung by a bee?
4 heart-shaped lips. 3 uneven lips.
Uneven? Okay, I can see a little bit.
2 Cupid's bow lips. 1 double-lobed lips.
Double-lobed lips?
Morbid Facts, Part 1. In 1992, 18-year-old John Thompson was home alone when he had both of his arms ripped off in a farming accident. But he still managed to get up and dial 911 with a pencil in his mouth. He miraculously survived and both of his arms were reattached. John says the only pain he really felt was when the exposed nerve hanging down his right side knocked into something. When Tatanisha Hedman waited for him to fall asleep before pouring kerosene on him and lighting him on fire. She later admitted to police that she intentionally set him ablaze because shooting him would have been too nice. The 2009, a man sued Pepsi when he was traumatized after finding a mouse in his Mountain Dew. But Pepsi attorneys said this was impossible since Mountain Dew would completely dissolve a mouse within 30 days. Pepsi ended up winning the case after proving that the can was purchased more than 70 days after it was manufactured.
I'm just gonna gloss over that. A mouse dissolves.
Could not finish because of how much they disturbed me. You guys really liked the first list, so I'm back with another top 3. And remember, these are not necessarily the scariest, but they're the ones that left me the most uncomfortable. And according to my commenters, number 1 might be the most uncomfortable video I've ever uploaded. At number 3, we have Broken Needle. Compared to number 2 and number 1, this one isn't so bad, but the idea of a little girl who's just a head and a spinal cord telling her father to add more body parts to her is really disturbing to me. And the levels of the game are just finding people who have the right limbs, killing them, and then taking those body parts to attach to your daughter. Yeah, for some reason this one really got to me, and it's a short playthrough that's worth a watch. Number 2 is Mouthwashing. Of course I have to talk about this. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this game. It really needs no introduction at this point. And while the subject matter it covers isn't necessarily new, the way it tackles it is profound. If Ginny as a character does not make you uncomfortable, I don't really know what to tell you. Now, I do have a playthrough for all of these games on my channel, but again, warning for number 1, it's brutal. At number 1, we have Vile Exhumed. This game is exactly what its title says, vile. You're exploring the computer of one of the most evil characters I've ever seen in a game. Basically, a man becomes obsessed with this actress named Candy Corpse and commits unspeakable crimes. And the way this game presents the evidence to you, I had chills multiple times during this game.
Should I check those out, Seekers? You guys know I ain't into scary movies like that.
Did you know what was actually going on in this story? Because I bet you didn't. Apparently, Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is the most messed up, disturbing, horrifying movie ever made. I know you're all probably thinking why, it's just a kid's film. Well, maybe it's not. As I go on, this gets progressively worse, so stick with me and make sure you share this video with someone. So first of all, apparently the movie was predictively programmed, with the first one coming out in 1971 and the remake in 2002. In the 1971 movie, there's talk of facial recognition and robots actually taking over people's jobs, which of course is happening now, with literal AI-controlled rooms and a number of different things which lead people to believe it was predictively programmed. Next up, there's a theory that it's actually connected to Batman. The company of the toothpaste called Smile is the same as the Joker's laughing gas in the movie, when people have seen a lot of connections between the two. Which leads on to the next one, that Willy Wonka is actually a serial killer. Weirdly and scarily kind of makes sense because of the context. Every child apparently representing a different sin that has to be purged. The way that he eliminates people, but wait till you hear this. He lures people in with marketing, eliminates them when they fail to meet the expectations, and then of course reward the most obedient one with ownership of the system. Which many people have been saying is pretty creepy and also sounds very familiar to things nowadays. When you think about it, some of it does make sense, some of it I'm really not too sure. Let me know your thoughts and let me know which one next.
You guys believe that theory?
Facts you probably didn't know. If your dog is sleeping like this on its side with its legs extended, it most likely feels safe and is at a comfortable temperature. If your dog licks you when you get a cut or a wound, he's actually trying to heal you. Your dog has antibacterial compounds in their saliva, so when they're licking your cut, they're trying to heal you faster. Dogs yawning. If your dog is yawning, it's not the same as a human yawn. Dogs yawn to reduce anxiety and stress and remain comfortable. Dogs can actually smell your emotions. Studies were done showing that dogs can feel a sense of both stress and fear along with some other happier emotions, and dogs tended to mirror that human's emotion.
Dinosaurs that were found in your country. Croatia.
Here we go.
Histriosaurus. Malawi. Maloisaurus.
Maloisaurus.
Norway. Hippacrosaurus.
Alright.
Germany. Archaeopteryx.
Flying one-eyed.
USA.
T-Rex.
Utahraptor.
Yeah, I was wrong. Utahraptor.
Canada. Acrocanthosaurus.
Is that the T-Rex? Looks like it.
I'm gonna ruin your childhood, so listen in. So SpongeBob's address is 124 Conch Street, Bikini Bottom. But if you type it into Google, it will take you to this point at Little St. James's Island. And this is where it gets extremely weird. This is the exact spot of Jeffrey Epstein's island. This is so messed up. I don't even know what to think.
A zoo in Denmark wants you to donate your pets to the zoo so they can feed them to the predators. So the Aalborg Zoo says they're trying to mimic the natural food chain of the animals that are housed there. And to mimic this natural food chain, they're asking members of the public to donate their small pets to the zoo so they can then be put down and fed to the predators at the zoo. So in an FB post, the zoo said that if you have a healthy animal that needs to be given away for any reason, feel free to donate it to us. Apparently they're wanting animals like guinea pigs, chickens, and even horses to be donated to the zoo, but if you choose to donate a horse, there is a small catch. It can't have been treated for an illness within the past 30 days at least. Now, since this announcement, there has been some massive pushback against this zoo, which is kind of obvious, because what do you mean you want me to donate my pet horse so you can go and feed it to a tiger? But I have to defend the zoo a little bit. If you have an old guinea pig that's on the way out, I personally don't see a problem with donating it to the zoo. However, if you have completely healthy animals that you just don't want anymore for whatever reason, and you choose to donate them to this zoo, I see that as a problem, at least a little bit.
Were people still alive
give them up
inside
for
of the
adoption.
Titanic as it sank? Well, testimony from survivors actually suggests that yes, they were. Also, I cover a lot of morbid but interesting things on this page, so you should follow along. So as the Titanic sank, we know that part of it was vertical in the water as it went down. And experts have suggested that any of the air still left inside of the ship would have traveled to the top and trapped itself inside of a bubble. Which means that if people were trapped in that part of the ship, they could have survived as it was being brought down to the bottom of the ocean. But what's interesting is that the night it sank, some of the survivors said that 15 to 20 seconds after the ship went down, they heard an explosion under the water, which some people have suggested was actually the sound of the bubble imploding, similar to how the Titan submersible imploded. Basically, at a certain point, the ship would have gotten to a depth where the pressure on the outside was more than the pressure on the inside, and it would have crushed it. However, some experts say this is not possible. The ship was not sealed like the submersible was sealed, and therefore it could not have imploded that way. Regardless, we know that everyone who was left on that ship that night suffered a horrible fate, and if you're interested in more morbidly but interesting content, make sure to follow along.
The oldest baby in the world was just born, and even though it's just a few days old, it's already older than you and me. So back in the 90s, a baby in Ohio was frozen as an embryo. Well, just a few days ago, that embryo was born and is now a full-on baby. Now, the parents of this baby are 34 and 35, and the baby is technically 30 years old since it was frozen all the way back in 1994. So that means that the baby is only a few years younger than the parents. Technically speaking, if the baby wasn't frozen and it was born back in 1994, then the parents of this baby and the baby would have possibly spent a year or two at the same school together. Now, since the original woman who froze her embryos never exactly gave birth to this baby, the baby has two adopted parents right now. But the actual mother of the baby, the one whose embryos were frozen, is going to eventually get to meet this baby that has been in the works for 30 years. And she actually has a child who is 30 years old. So that child and this baby are siblings that are the same age, even though they have a 30-year age gap between them.
Dirty history facts that school refuses to teach you. In ancient Greece, large peepees were a sign that someone was stupid or foolish, which is why so many statues like this one are depicted with a small one because it was a sign of intellect. Benjamin Franklin had a MILF fetish. Benjamin Franklin actually wrote a letter to a boy saying that older women were better because they're more experienced, and in that he said, while the face wrinkles, the other parts do not. In 17th century Europe, it was common practice for nannies to give a handy to a younger teenage boy in order to help him fall asleep.
She is responsible for the deaths of more people than the average serial killer. Ilse Koch and her husband Karl were responsible for the management and construction of the Buchenwald concentration camp in Germany. With this power, she enjoyed causing suffering. She and her husband created a rule that if any prisoner were to look at her directly, they would be executed on the spot. Because of this, she started to ride a horse through the concentration camp, dressed in very revealing clothing that was tight with very low cleavage. Just so she could say, somebody looked at me, and she could have them executed. Meanwhile, people were probably looking at her because she looked crazy, but she also carried a whip and she would just hit people at random. Then when husband Karl was away, witnesses reported she would command officers to bring a selection of male soldiers to her mansion that was on site at the camp, then force them to remove their clothing and then lie in front of them in lingerie. If any of them looked at her or showed any signs of being excited, she would also have them executed. It just gets worse from here. She also insisted on having only teenage boys be her servants in her home, and each morning she would lay in bed in her nightgown and have them bring her breakfast, just so she could say, you looked at me, have them taken care of. Over time, she became bored with this game. This suffering so boring. So she creates a new hobby. One day she's riding through camp again on her horse, whipping people at random, when she notices that one of the prisoners has a tattoo. This prompts her to go to the camp's doctor so she could pressure him to start a new experiment, to see if there's any connection between tattoos and criminal behavior. A German inmate gave the testimony that all prisoners with tattoos had to report to the dispensary. Once the prisoners were examined, the ones with the most artistic tattoos were then killed with lethal injection. Ultimately, there was over 800 prisoners that went through this, just so the desired pieces of skin with tattoos could be skinned off their bodies and preserved. She would then decorate with the preserved skin, and also use it to make lampshades. I also read that she used the skin to cover books and to make gloves. She would also give out these pieces of skin as gifts. In 1942, Ilse and her husband were taken to court for misusing camp funds, but also for not following protocol with prisoners. You know it's bad when the Nazis themselves, even at the time, said, you took it too far. For more horrific history, please subscribe to my YouTube channel as we unbox more of these cases.
That was a disturbing case.
Maybe an unpopular opinion, but I'm sure you would notice if you had the bodies of your 3 dead best friends in your back garden. It was the 7th of January in Kansas City, Missouri, when 3 friends went to another friend's house to watch a football game. The men were Clayton McGeeney, Ricky Johnson, and David Harrington, and the friend they went to see was Jordan Willis. The guys regularly hung out. They were literally best friends, and they were really excited for the Kansas City Chiefs game because, as you can see, they were all big fans. Ricky was a father of 3 and loved spending time with his kids. He loved nothing more. Clayton was described as a great person by loved ones, and David was a really lovely guy. He was actually a Little League baseball coach. It was actually David's mom, Jennifer, that started to get really worried because after he went over to the house, she just didn't hear of him for days. Maybe it would have been normal for a few hours, but yeah, not full days with no communication. And it was very weird because all 3 men stopped communicating at the exact same time and hadn't spoke to their family or friends. It was Clayton's fiance that finally ended up taking matters into her own hands and just driving over there to see what the hell was going on. She ended up driving over to Jordan's house and literally banging on his front door, desperate for any kind of answers. But eerily, there was no reply. What the hell had happened at this house? She then went round the back of the home, and that's when her whole world was turned upside down. She wanted to see if she could obviously get a better look through a window or something, or get any idea what had gone on. When she entered the back garden, she was absolutely horrified. One of the men was dead on the back porch, and the 2 other were deceased in the back garden. They were all frozen. As you could see, it was really snowy at that point. So she rang police and they raced to the scene, and it was only once police actually arrived that they realized somebody was in the house. Jordan allegedly then came out of his bedroom and shortly after lawyered up. He initially claimed that he had no idea that those bodies were there. He initially stated he didn't usually use the back door, he just used the front door, so he had no idea that the bodies were in the garden. However, the men's cars were still parked at the house, so I feel like that makes absolutely no sense in my opinion. It's also alleged that multiple people had tried to call this Jordan and ask where on earth their loved ones were, and he was just not answering. Police originally ruled out foul play and stated that this guy had no motive to want to hurt his friends. However, things have changed. Jordan was fairly recently arrested along with another man. The deceased men's autopsies revealed they had illegal substances in their systems. Police alleged that Jordan supplied these men with substances, along with a man named Blade Brown. That was obviously a nickname. His real name is Ivory Carson. Text messages allegedly reveal that Ivory had provided some substances to these men. 2 witnesses also allegedly reported that Jordan had been seen passing around a dinner plate with substances on it to these men at his house. Both men are currently being held in jail.
Poor girl was essayed by her father for 12 years, had 3 children with him, all while her grandparents knew. This all happened in West Virginia. Alexandra Thomas was only 9 years old when her father, Kenneth Cook, began essaying her. She gave birth to her first child at 16, her second child at 18, and her third child at 20 years old. This is her dad's Facebook account. It says Daddy's Baby Girls. disgusting. Alexandra said that at the age of 9, she tried to tell CPS, but her grandmother worked very closely with them and told them that she was lying. She said that her grandfather also knew what was going on, but he wasn't surprised and just didn't care. She said that her father threatened her multiple times that if she said anything again, he could make her disappear. She wasn't allowed to have a phone, friends, and he kept her away from her mother's family so that this secret wouldn't get out. Alexandra posted this on Facebook, and basically she said that her youngest was born with severe health issues and stayed in the hospital for the first week, but since her father was scared that the truth would be exposed, he forced her to keep the baby at home, all while he needed medical attention. This disgusting family secret was finally revealed one day when the youngest child was found malnourished. He was only weighing 6 pounds at the age of 1. That's when they did a genetic testing and found out that Kenneth and Alexandra were related. This monster faces more than 150 charges, and his parents can also be charged because they knew this entire time and they never reported it.
This is trypophobia.
The world is going to a freaking dark place, dark old man. The grandparents knew and they did nothing to try to stop it. They just ignored us. Hey, ain't my problem. Come on, man. People need to be better, plain and simple.
Phobia test, extreme edition. Can you make it through all 5? Let's find out. Start the test. Number 1. How about this?
I'm cool.
Halfway through. Feeling uncomfortable yet? Last one. If you couldn't make it to the end, then you could have trypophobia, which is the fear of clusters of small holes or patterns. Follow now to see if you can make it through the next extreme phobia test.
I made it. Where was she at?
If you're scared of snakes, this video will probably be your worst nightmare. This absolute unit of a snake is called the Titanoboa, and they existed over 60 million years ago. These things were slithering around at almost 50 feet long, and let me just put that into perspective for you. That would be like lining up 8 Shaquille O'Neals from head to toe, and we know that dude's massive. Now, God didn't want to make them too overpowered, so he didn't give them any venom, but he did give them the ability to be amazing swimmers and even faster than a racehorse when moving on land. Now, although the Titanoboa doesn't have any venom, it is a constrictor, so when it catches its prey, it crushes the absolute soul out of it. Its jaw then unhinges, allowing its mouth to open wide enough to consume a whole human, alligator, really anything else. You might be thinking, with all this power, how did this beast go extinct? Well, it's not because they skipped leg day. No. You see, when the Earth cooled down, they couldn't maintain their metabolism anymore and went extinct. You can thank God that they're not around today. Make sure you share this video with someone who hates snakes.
Today I'm going to show you one of the scariest things on the internet. When is the last time any of you guys have actually checked your spam folder? Well, today I got really bored and I was checking my emails and I clicked on my spam folder and I came across this. This is a spam email and it is basically threatening me that if I don't send $1,300, they're going to ruin my life. Firstly, I already know you and all of your loved ones very well. Secondly, the occasion for which I'm writing to you is not the happiest one for a friendly greeting. The next part of this email then proceeds to tell me that it has access to my webcam and that it's been monitoring my activity for the last few months and I've been up to some not good things. Apparently, I've been watching a highly controversial video, they recorded it, then they proceed to tell me that they have access to my entire contact list and they're going to be sending this controversial video they recorded of me to all my friends, colleagues, and family. Here is the bad part. I can go further and put all of these files as well as the recorded fun of you and your hacked contents with hardcore videos. Then they proceed to say, send me $1,300 and I won't send it. Well, that got me really interested because I was like, there's no way people are actually dumb enough to fall for this scam. Right? They have made a total of $4,547. So that makes me wonder, what type of videos are these people who are sending the money watching? Look, I'm not telling people to do this, but they've made about $5 grand in like 4 days. Not that bad. But the real question is, what type of videos were these people watching where they felt scared enough to actually send the money? Be sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
He's actually asking important questions, man. They sent $1,300 here. What were they watching, bro? They must have been watching something they wasn't supposed to, man. They were that scared. Because obviously you can tell that was a fake email, but it scared him to the core. He was doing something they weren't supposed to be doing.
Morbid Facts, Part 10. When 13-year-old Ryan White got AIDS from a blood donor in 1984, he was only given 6 months to live. Even though doctors said he posed absolutely zero risk to other students, Ryan was banned from returning to school by a petition signed by 117 parents. An auction was even held to raise funds to keep him out, and a local newspaper that supported him received death threats. The family had no other choice but to leave town when a bullet was shot through the window of their home. Ryan outlived the doctor's diagnosis by 5 years, dying at the age of 19. In 2009, Moscow native Julia Popova was stabbed in the neck by a mugger, but she was in so much shock that she walked home without even realizing that the knife was embedded in her, just millimeters from her spinal cord. She spent over an hour with the blade in her back before finally going to the hospital. The knife was successfully removed via surgery, and Julia made a full recovery. Dutchman Dirk Willems was a religious prisoner who escaped his execution in 1569. When the guard chasing him fell through the ice in a nearby river, Willems turned around to save him. He was then recaptured and burned at the stake. Your lungs have a total surface area of 750 square feet, meaning if they were opened up and laid flat, they would cover the entire size of a tennis court. In 1977, the drummer for Lynyrd Skynyrd, Artemis Pyle, survived the plane crash that killed half the band. He then walked to a nearby house for help, only to be shot by the homeowner. He was apparently startled by the sight of a long-haired, bloody man, and fired a warning shot that hit the drummer in the shoulder. Once Pyle shouted that there was a crash, the farmer helped him and he went on to recover.
Just wait for the video at the end where you see this giant thing submerged. It's beautiful. It's not. This is the gigantic crocodile animatronic used for the 1999 movie Lake Placid. Look at the animatronics mechanics that are going to be completely submerged, including most of it. And this is how absolutely massive it is. It was made by Stan Winston and his crew, and they're geniuses. It's great, but this horrifies me. I'm suing. Like, here's it in the water, mostly submerged, with bro up there. I could never, you could not pay me to be a guy in the freaking water like this. No. Like, could you ever get in the water with this thing? With this gigantic crocodile animatronic? No. Nah. This is the gigantic rig that is actually the, like, skeleton of the crocodile that's completely submerged. Like, look at this. Look at this. Knowing it's completely submerged in the water, I hate it. Look at this one. What's that underneath him? That's a person that's, like, fixing things underneath it. Let's look at it again. Could you ever do that? They use a giant winch to put it in the water. Like, why? They could have completely used CGI. They should have. I'm scared. This is one of the worst ones for me. Watch this video and let me know what you're thinking. And could you ever be in the water with that?
Imagine seeing that, man. You wouldn't even think that's an animatronic. You would think that was real. You really can't tell the difference.
Here are some signs that you won't believe actually exist. Alright, here's the first one. Please do not stand, sit, climb or lean on zoo fences. If you fall, animals scare you and that might make them sick. Thank you. This container transports a disease which has no cure. Why? Danger, if you fall in the pond, you will be boiled. Attention, make sure the door is closed tightly so bears can't get in. Thank you. Why would bears be getting in? What the Really hoping the same sign is on the entrance of the slide. Oh, surely it isn't. Do not grab Hamish by the horns. I will not grab Hamish by the horn. If elevator does not move, do a small jump, it should move after. Nah, why would it move? What? Danger, do not get on elevator with one of these. If it leaks, you'll die. Why would someone get an elevator with one of these? What?
Behind me is 14-year-old George Stinney Jr., and at the age of 14, he was falsely accused of killing 2 girls. This happened 80 years ago, and this little kid was sentenced to death by the electric chair. They found the bodies of 2 young girls by George's house, so they automatically blamed him, even though they had no evidence whatsoever. On top of the false accusations, he spent 81 days in jail without even seeing his parents, and he was 80 miles away from his hometown. And he also did not get treated well. He didn't even have a lawyer in his presence during the time of questioning, and he was a kid, so he doesn't know better. He also did not receive a fair trial. The trial lasted 2 hours, and then it was handed down in 10 minutes. His parents weren't even allowed in the courtroom, and then they were banned from the city. On the day of his execution, he was carrying a Bible with him, and then they had to prop him up on that same Bible because he was too short for the electric chair. 70 years later, they overturned this conviction, saying that this case didn't make any sense. Apparently, the girls died because blunt force trauma by a beam. George is way too small to lift that beam up, so they were like, there's no possible way. But the damage was done. This was 70 years, way too late.
The Green Mile by Stephen King was inspired by this story. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Let's see if you have thalassophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have thalassophobia. So let's go. First one. How about this?
I'm cool.
Feeling uneasy yet? Almost there. Last one. If those images made you feel uneasy, then you may have thalassophobia, which is the fear of deep bodies of water. So let me know if you discovered a new phobia down below.
But I wouldn't go that deep in water, so I think the last one got me, man. I'd never go that deep. That ain't for me. Somebody in there with him? Yep.
This film director was found stabbed to death inside of her London home. One thing was missing, it was her diamond-encrusted Rolex, and they think that is the motive for the murder right now. Her name is Jennifer Abbott, but she was known professionally as Sarah Steinberg. Now here's the crazy part, she was found by her niece and neighbors, and when they found her, she had tape over her mouth. Somebody stabbed her, maybe taped her mouth before they stabbed her, and then took her stuff and headed out. On top of this, she was found wrapped in a blanket on her bed. She was last seen walking her corgi on June 10th. Now that same very corgi was found alive. However, it was locked in the bathroom for 3 days, so it's a miracle that thing even survived. The niece was panicking that something was wrong with her aunt when she showed up initially. She got the neighbors, and the neighbor's son ended up breaking the door down. People are saying she also had stomach cancer and recently underwent surgery right before her death, which makes me think personally, somebody must have heard something, maybe she went through surgery and was recovering, and then that made her the perfect victim for their attack. Of course, she's a very successful director. She's going to have expensive things probably laying around her home. Do you guys think there's something fishy behind the scenes? Let me know.
Was this woman saved by her guardian angel? Joan wrote on Catholic.org that when she was 21, she was heading to a club with 2 friends. She said that as she got ready, she started feeling really odd. Then she said that it became clear to her that her and her friend were going to get into a car accident and she would not walk away from it. This was before cell phones, so she had to wait for her friend to tell her that she could not go with her since she had already left her house when Joan had this revelation. When Joan opened the door to tell her friend that she would not be going, she said that she felt a strong hand on each of her shoulders holding her back, even though she was completely alone in the room. Once she told her friend that she could not go with her, she said that the hands and the odd feeling went away. On the way home from the club, her friend got into a car accident and totaled the passenger side of the car where Joan would have been sitting. She was fine, but the passenger side of the car was completely destroyed.
I need to know how you feel about abandoned water parks, because if you're anything like me, you hate this. Look at this in the water. That shouldn't be there. That's supposed to float, not sink. Why is abandoned places, number one, terrifying, but also abandoned amusement parks and water parks so much worse? This image with the graffiti, that's actually beautiful. I don't like this though. This is still water. Icky. We got Cosmo and Wanda, or more recently, Elphaba and Glinda. The pipes in the water of this one in particular sends me over the edge. I have a huge phobia of pipes and water. Call me stupid, make fun of me all you want. This is icky, and I know I'm not the only one. Imagine that you're exploring an abandoned water park late at night, and you decide to go in there, and you get stuck, and there's no one to save you. I don't like that. Why am I scaring myself? Like, that's not safe, dude. That's not, please get down. Please get down. I'm gonna call your mom.
It really is.
Like, why? Why do people do this? I just don't like the fact that nature is taking this place back. It's beautiful. Terrifying, though. So, yeah. How do you feel? Terrifying, right? Or am I dumb yet again?
Maybe I go exploring. Abandoned water park during the day, but not during the night. I don't know what creepy crawler's going to try to come out. So, yeah.
World's most dangerous conspiracy theories. This picture represents conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these theories say once you learn the truth, there's no return. For this series, we're going to be picking some from each category until we reach tier 10, the point of no return. Tier 10 is so scary that some people are saying that I will die before I even reach tier 10. Okay, tier 1. Today we're going to be talking about cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is defined as the search for animals whose existence is disputed. For example, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, and the Loch Ness Monster. For this one, I want to talk about the Ningen. The Ningen is based in Japan. It's an aquatic humanoid creature that can be larger than a whale but also mutate into a human. I know what you're thinking, no way this is real. I thought the same thing until I saw this. In 2007, a company published a magazine with Ningens on the cover. The magazines were completely destroyed with no trace, but I found the PDF file of what it looked like. It gets even weirder. Early February 2013, a huge mysterious object washes ashore that makes locals freak out. 3 days later, the website was taken down without a trace. Doing some more research, I found out that people from Japan created a forum page talking about all of the government corruption that was happening. They then began to speak on the Ningen, and somebody says that he was on the research ship when they captured it on camera, and then government officials raided the boat and even supposedly killing some of the people. 3 days later, the forum page was taken down without a trace, but I found it once again, and take a look at one of the videos somebody posted. So what do you think? Is this Ningen just some myth, or is the government hiding something much darker? This was only tier 1. Make sure to follow to see tier 2 because we have a lot more to cover.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. Registered nurse Shirley Smith said that she had a very rich patient who was of cancer. The patient had upside down crosses and a Satan's Bible by her bedside. Shirley said that she will never forget what happened. It was the middle of the summer, and yet it was so cold and dark in her room that you couldn't even stand it, even in the middle of the day. She said that it got so evil feeling in there that she had to call a priest to pray with her and her aides before they would even enter the room. When the patient passed away, she had not spoken in over 24 hours. And then all of a sudden, she sat straight up and said, "Satan, take me." And then she fell back on the bed. Shirley said that after she passed, the room got bright and extremely warm. Shockingly, when they moved the patient's body, they had to get rid of the mattress because where her body had been, it looked burnt. And the most horrible smell was emanating from the mattress cover. Needless to say, Shirley went to confession immediately because she did not want an evil spirit around her. A nurse said that one of their patients had a serious recurrence and had to be admitted. Over the course of several nights, he had become quite upset during rounds. He kept asking for his wallet, saying that he had to pay the ferryman. The medical student on rotation in the department took a quarter out of his pocket and put it in the patient's hand. The patient then dropped the coin into the cup on his bedstand and calmed down. Later that night, he passed away quietly. The nurse asked what happened. The medical student, who remembered his Greek mythology, said that the patient had to pay Charon, the ferryman, to be taken across the river Styx. A nurse said that he was doing rounds at a hospital. There was one two-patient room, and one of the patients was a very loud and confused woman who could be quite a handful. On this particular night, she had a roommate who had passed away shortly before the nurse entered the room. She was DNR, so there was no code blue. When he entered the room, he noticed that the elderly lady, who was usually very loud and confused, was sitting quietly with her hands crossed neatly upon her lap. Something was different, and there was this look of serenity on her face. She asked him in a voice that seemed much younger and clearer than before, "Did you see them, young man? They're so beautiful." He said, "No, ma'am, there's no one else here." She said, "They're right next to you, talking to Mrs. Banneker. The angels. They're so beautiful." He said that he instantly felt every hair of his body stand up, and an electric tingle course up and down his spine. "They're not here for me this time," she said sadly.
Today we're going to be talking about some of the absolute worst shark animatronics, most of them underwater. Let's go. This image, I hate it. This guy that's on a dark ride, I don't like this one at all. Here's another version of it when it pops out of the water more. Who did this? Here's another image of the same shark with the track right by it. That is sickening, completely submerged like that. This image completely plagues my nightmares of the Jaws animatronic for the movie. This one's actually super interesting. Her name is Daisy, and she is a shark animatronic that looks super, super realistic. And she is rented out for people to like make movies and stuff of her. But here's an image of her being transported in the water, and she looks kind of goofy. This isn't an animatronic, but this image freaks me out every single time I see it. I'm pretty sure it's CGI, and it is from Deep Blue Sea, the best shark movie ever made. Another Jaws animatronic picture. I hate this one. All the tracks and all the animatronics, some mechanophobia coded. Hate it. This one has braces, and that red eye is freaking me out. Here's one of the Jaws animatronics without face skin if you needed to have nightmares tonight. There you go. These animatronics, oh my god, the fact that they're in the water is so sickening like that. Like, why? Sharks are the scariest because of their completely black eyeballs. Like, they have no, like, whites of their eyes. They're just, like, these black, just creepy, creepy eyes. I don't like them. You would have to pay me at least $500 to get on this ride, this Finding Nemo ride. The fact that Bruce sticks his head out like that. Like, look at him side-eyeing, dude. I don't like looking at this picture at all. And, of course, the Jaws animatronic at the Japanese Universal Studios. The worst. The fact that it is huge and it is in that water like that. Hate it. Which one was the worst for you?
This is what would happen if you stopped sleeping. After the first 24 hours, you would feel great, which is because early on, sleeplessness stimulates a part of your brain that causes you to feel happy and energetic. But not long after this 24-hour mark, you'll start to feel sluggish, be forgetful, and appear drunk to other people. After 2 full days of not sleeping, your body would appear to lose all its energy and feel like it's shutting down. Just because your body can't properly metabolize glucose without sleep. After 3 days, your skin would become pale, your eyes would become red, and you'll start to hallucinate. Which means that your worst nightmares are going to appear real right in front of your eyes, kind of like sleep paralysis, but you're awake. And after 2 full weeks, your immune system would be so weak that the common cold would be enough to unalive you. And after 3 full weeks, there's a super high chance that you'll have a heart attack. But let me know, what was the longest you ever went without sleeping?
This married teacher cried as cops arrested her after they found out she had sexually abused a student 45 times. And apparently she had groomed that student since he was 14 all the way up to about age 16. She'll face nearly 60 years in prison if she's convicted and found guilty. Apparently, the teenage student's mother was going through his phone and found disturbing texts between the teacher and her son. She decided to contact the school board and the police to get to the bottom of what's going on. As of today, she has resigned from her teaching job. And then, like I said, there was 45 counts of her and the student engaging in sex and stuff like that. Whether that was in school, before school, at her own home, everything. They found thousands of texts confirming what the boy's mother was saying too. When police confronted her, she claimed that the student was just some sort of stalker that was obsessed with her. And also, the husband had no idea what was going on. He just knew the student as some soccer player at the school. And that's when the text messages got pulled up. As of right now, she's denying any sexual relations with that student. And then they pulled from her notes app and found a memoir of things she was mad about. Apparently, she was mad that the teenage boy was not picking her as the first choice or something like that. She was literally just venting in her notes app about this kid. A 30-year-old grown teacher. Let me know your thoughts.
She was sacrificed by 3 teen boys so that their band could make it big and even inspired the movie Jennifer's Body. Elise Pollard was born on April 26 of 1980 in Arroyo Grande, California. Her parents raised her as a Christian and had a strong connection with their beliefs. On July 22nd of 1995, 15-year-old Elise was reported missing. For about 8 months, no one could find a trace of Elise and her case went cold. The case opened up when 17-year-old Royce Casey admitted to taking the life of Elise with 2 other teenagers. He led police to mummified remains of Elise at a grave that was only a quarter-mile away from her home. The 2 other teens involved were 16-year-old Jacob and 15-year-old Joseph, and the 3 were all arrested and charged. According to Royce, they picked Elise because she was a blonde, blue-eyed virgin, and they were going to sacrifice her so that their metal band would make it big. Once the boys picked Elise as their victim, they stalked her for weeks and to find the best way they could get her away from school and to hang out with them alone. When they successfully lured Elise away from the school, they took her to a grove with the promise of substances. They attacked her from behind, put a belt around her neck, and strangled her. They all took turns stabbing her when she was left with 12 stab wounds. As these boys were attacking and kicking her body, Elise was praying to God for help and calling out for her mom. Elise eventually bled to death with her 12 stab wounds. But the torture didn't stop there. Once she had passed away, the boys essayed her body. Royce was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 21 years, and it's probably because he confessed to the police. Jacob and Joseph were both sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 26 years. In 2021, Royce was up for parole and he stated that he was a changed person, he felt remorse, he even got an education while he was in prison, but he was denied. Many think that the movie Jennifer's Body is based on this case. In the movie, Jennifer is taken to the woods by these band members. They end up sacrificing her so that their band can make it big. But in the movie, she becomes a vampire and takes the life of guys.
Man, we know, man, how these movies and shows will be based off of real, true stories, so that's not that far of a leap. It's a chilling case.
Would you ever visit this abandoned park that has a bunch of massive busts of old presidents? You know, I don't think I would. It used to be a lively place, but it closed in 2010, and some guy bought all of the busts and put it on some abandoned land. And it looks like this now. This is horrifying. I don't like this. This is how big a human is in comparison to all of these. That's just sickening. Can you imagine going there after dark in this abandoned area with all these massive... I couldn't do it. Also, this is Abraham Lincoln. If you know, you know. Like jail. Did someone do this on purpose, or was it a weird coincidence? This is kind of cool with all the plants on it. Still terrifying though. I have megalophobia, which is fear of huge things, and then abandoned places mixed together. No, thank you.
Ain't good.
I think George Washington's about to square up. Does anyone know which president this is that's missing the jaw though? This is horrific. But yeah, here's another picture of it. Would you go here? Some of them are missing the top of their heads. They had their wigs snatched. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to go, but also I would be terrified I'd poop.
She found out that her husband was cheating on her, so she cut his private part off. In 2015, Feng Lung from China had found out that her husband was sending emails to another woman. Her husband, Fan, had used her phone to send these emails, but he forgot to log out of his account. Fan was asleep in their bed when this happened, and without thinking twice, Feng grabbed a pair of scissors, walked over to him, and cut his private part off, and it was completely detached from his body. Fan was rushed to the hospital, and doctors were successfully able to reattach it and treat his injuries. Feng was unhappy that the doctors were able to do this, so she snuck into the surgery center and attacked her husband again. She did the same exact thing to Fan, but this time she threw it out the window. There was blood pouring from Fan's groin area, but he still went outside to go look for it. As he was running outside, Feng ran after him to try and attack him again, but that's when he punched her in the face. Hospital staff were able to separate the two, and Fan was treated for his new injuries. Unfortunately for Fan, doctors nor police were able to locate his private part. Feng ended up being arrested and charged with grievous bodily harm.
AI can now officially read your dreams. When you look at anything like this grass field, your brain's neural pathways form a specific pattern, sort of like a heat map. And every possible thing you look at or can even imagine has its own unique pattern. When you dream, your brain behaves much the same way, forming brain frequency patterns based on what you're dreaming about. Well, Asa Raskin from the Center for Humane Technology announced that they've done some tests, and what they discovered is impressive but incredibly alarming. They put a test subject inside an fMRI machine, which can read brain activity, and had them look at an image, in this case an image of a giraffe, and the machine mapped out their brainwave pattern. They then hid the image and fed only the brain map data to an AI image generator, probably a little more advanced than Midjourney. An AI that has never seen the original image of the giraffe, nor had access to an internet database that stored the original image either. It then generated, strictly based on the fMRI brain map data, what it determined that the person was looking at, and this is what it produced. Not exactly the same image, but I don't think you understand what it means that AI can now turn this into that with this level of accuracy. And we're still quite early in this technology, so it's only getting better from here. Then they took it a step further. They showed the test subject in the fMRI machine a video, and on top of generating what the subject is seeing, they also wanted to find out if the AI can read your inner monologue, the words you think to yourself in your own mind that no one else knows about. The test subject watched this video and was told to narrate what was going on in the video inside their own head. Here, let's do it together. You ready? Did you get all that? Now again, given only the subject's brain activity heat map, this is what the AI determined the person was thinking. I see a girl that looks just like me get hit on the back and then she is knocked off. Probably a bit different than what you thought, but this is literally AI reading our minds, and all it takes is someone's fMRI brain scan data. Our thoughts and dreams can now be leaked to the world. Give it a few more years and this technology will get near perfect. And sure, fMRI machines may look like this today, big, clunky, and all around you, but that technology is also going to improve. What if we have fMRI Apple Vision Pro goggles 10, 20 years from now? You'd be able to see and read what someone is thinking or even dreaming by
your life. Part 20. If you're ever cooking and the pan catches on fire, do not throw liquid on it. Instead, use the lid to smother the heat and do not remove it for a few minutes. If your pupils don't dilate to the same size, there is a very real chance you have brain damage. A motorcycle helmet is stronger than a skull. Tea bags actually stop bleeding. They contain a chemical called tannic, which naturally clots your blood. If you're in the wilderness and desperately need water, you can take a plastic bag and hold it against the branch of a willow tree, and it will condensate drinkable water into the bag. Never put tools or heavy objects on the back seat or dash of your car. If you get into a crash, you might survive the collision, but these items could be the cause of your death.
This family in Texas was living with a haunted Elsa doll for years. That's what happened to Emily's daughter, who received an Elsa doll from her grandmother when she turned 1. The family kept the doll for a few years until it started speaking on its own, even when the switch was turned off. Emily also said that after 2 years, the doll suddenly began speaking Spanish, which is weird because it only spoke English the entire time they had it. In 2019, Emily decided to throw Elsa in the trash because at this point, her daughter had this doll for a very long time. But 2 weeks later, Matt opened a wooden bench in their living room and Elsa was in there. Obviously, he was confused, so he asked his kids if they had brought Elsa back into the house, and they said no. So this time, Matt and Emily put Elsa into 2 garbage bags and watched as the garbage truck picked up their garbage and took it away. But it doesn't end there. 2 weeks later, their daughter casually told them that she saw Elsa in their backyard. So when she went outside, she saw Elsa there. And at this point, Emily was freaked out and she decided to send Elsa to a friend 2,400 kilometers away with no return label. Emily said that since the doll's been gone, there has been weird things happening in their home, such as lights turning on and off, and doors opening and closing. So do you guys think Elsa was haunted, or is there another explanation for all of this?
Somebody could have been playing a prank on them, man, but I don't know if his kids were just putting the doll there, man, but Elsa must be stopped, bro. Imagine that dog freaking showing up after you know you got rid of it.
People are freaking out after realizing they definitely should not be doing this. You all have pillows. You're probably laying on one right now watching this video, right? And I bet some of you, if you took off the pillowcase, the pillow is pretty damn dirty. And let me ask you, how old is your pillow? How long have you actually had it? And I'm not just talking about the pillowcases. Obviously, you've got to clean those every week. But the actual physical pillow, I guarantee some of you have still got the same one since when you were a child or something. All of you probably know to change your bedding every week or two, and obviously actually physically replace the sheets after a couple of years. But what people didn't realise is that the actual physical pillow has an expiry date on it. An actual expiry date. And if you don't throw the pillow away before that, then you're in for a treat. There is of course millions of bacteria living on your bed, on your pillows, because you're sleeping on it all night long, which is the reason why you've got to replace your bedding so regularly. But over time, this gets into the pillows, and the pillows don't like it. Over time become very, very bad, and normally you should be throwing your pillows away every 2 years and replacing them. I saw someone doing this test where apparently you can fold them, and if they stay up when they're folded, that means it's time to say goodbye. But as I say, I guarantee some of you have some dirty pillows that you've probably had for your whole life. It's time to throw them out.
This is the terrifying case of the Santa serial killer. During Pride Festival in 2017 in Canada, Andrew Kinsman disappeared. He was the 8th man to go missing from the local area. When police entered Andrew's apartment, they found something interesting on his calendar. It said Bruce, 3 p.m. This clue led police to Bruce MacArthur. Bruce had had a troubled childhood growing up with a violent alcoholic father. Due to his religious family, he was made to hide his sexuality. He ended up marrying Janice Campbell, his high school girlfriend, but actually he was having a lot of affairs with men behind her back. He was working as a landscape gardener and also a part-time Santa Claus at the mall. In his role as Santa, he would greet children and entertain shoppers. When Janice discovered his infidelity, she divorced him, but nobody could guess what was going to unfold. In 2010, within 4 months of each other, 2 gay men disappeared from the neighbourhood of Church and Wellesley, the gay village of Toronto. 18 months later, another disappeared. Interestingly, all 3 were middle-aged immigrants. An anonymous tip came in linking Bruce with the men, but unfortunately there was no evidence to proceed any further. Then in 2012, a tip came through to police saying that a potential cannibal was loose in the area. A man was posting on underground websites claiming to have eaten brown flesh. Police discovered a man was writing on the website with the name Silver Fox, and they linked it to an email address which was linked to Bruce. However, when they questioned him, he was very friendly and helpful, so they just let him go. More men began vanishing and the total rose to 8. This brings us back to Andrew Kinsman. After seeing that Bruce was written on Andrew's calendar, they scoured CCTV from the local area and found CCTV of Andrew getting into a red van. Luckily, they tracked the van down and found it at a wrecking yard, but still intact. This was Bruce's van, and Andrew's blood was inside. They also seized Bruce's computer and found disturbing images of the men. Andrew had photographed all of the deceased men that had gone missing. He placed them in poses after being killed and photographed them. The next part of the story is an extremely dramatic turn of events, but I'm not going to have time, so I'm going to have to do a part 2.
Man, that was a sick individual. Where is he at? At night.
Zuza has very sadly passed away. If you don't know, Zuza was a very popular TikToker. Her and her friend Samara, who described Zuza as a little sister, made videos together. Well, for those that don't know, Zuza had cancer and she has very sadly succumbed to that. And Samara has made a video reacting to Zuza's passing that is absolutely devastating to watch. Rest in peace to you, Zuza. My prayers go out to you and your family.
A woman has been accused of murdering her parents after their dismembered bodies were found at their home. Verity Beck is a 43-year-old woman who'd been living with her elderly parents, Reed and Miriam Beck, in Pennsylvania. Police received a 911 call from Verity's brother concerned that he had seen what he thought was a body under a blanket during a visit to their house. Horrifically, when authorities arrived at the property, they found both parents, who were in their 70s, at different stages of dismemberment. Whoa. District Attorney Kevin Steele said there were signs of extreme trauma, and I'll tell you that a chainsaw was found. He said Verity used this chainsaw and then had put parts of her parents into trash bags and covered them up, and they were actually in 2 different trash cans. The autopsy results confirmed that both of the parents died from gunshot wounds to the head. Verity's brother had actually spoken to her prior to calling police, and Verity had told him that things at home were bad. She reportedly explained that she needed more time, but he called 911. It's not yet clear when these murders took place, but police found an unread newspaper from January the 7th in the house. Now, this date is the exact date that Verity's brother last spoke to his mum. It isn't yet clear what the motive for this horrific crime was, but there was a safe in the house that has been tampered with. Verity has been charged with 1st-degree murder and 3rd-degree murder and is being held without bail.
Oh, some money.
Blood-curdling facts.
Yeah, I just read that he said he felt like Dexter, that's why he did it. People cannot separate fiction from reality. Dexter is a TV show. This is real life, buddy.
You did not want to know. Up until 1974, it was illegal to appear in the streets of Chicago if you were ugly. The best way to torture someone and make it as painful as possible is to steam them alive. It takes longer to destroy their nerves, the sensation is hotter than boiling water, and your organs are cooked from the inside out. Kagura syndrome is a mental delusion where you believe that the people around you have been replaced by imposters. The movie The Hills Have Eyes is based on a Scottish group from the 16th century called the Bean Clan, and over the course of 25 years, they killed and ate over 1,000 people. Brains taste like ice cream. If you live in a major city, there is currently a nuclear weapon pointed at you as you're watching this video.
I'm gonna ruin your childhood memories, part 4. Did you ever play Ring Around the Rosie as a kid? Well, that game isn't so fun and innocent. Ring Around the Rosie was actually based off the plague. Pocket full of posies referred to roses in your pockets, which would hide the smell of decomposing bodies. Ashes, ashes referred to the cremated bodies whose ashes were spread around town. And then we all fall down meant death to everyone who got there.
I never knew that. These child games, bro, based on some dark stuff.
From yesterday's rapture. So all over the world, people decided the rapture was happening yesterday. While this was happening, all over the world, people are doing things like gathering outside and singing hymns while they await the second coming. Apparently, there was even a school that let the students out, so that way they wouldn't hit their heads on the ceiling when the rapture happens, which I don't think that's how that works. There were also a lot of people who were just putting their belongings in their front yard to give away as they wouldn't need it after the rapture occurred. One girl showed off a lamp that was worth a lot that she got from her neighbor that just put all their stuff in their yard. By the way, the people who did this are still here today. They just have less stuff now. One person even took this rapture giveaway a step further and gave away their whole car. There are also many people that you should be seeing updates from today, as there are a lot of people that were very adamant that they were going to be raptured and they're posting videos about it. And one guy even said that he would post an apology if he wasn't. Still waiting on that apology. Now, if y'all remember, these rapture rumors were started by a South African preacher. So just remember in the future, please be wary of any preacher that tells you the date that the rapture is happening. Because in the Bible, it says nobody will know the actual date that it happens.
So it's December 20th, 2024, and 33-year-old Teresa Bermel decides to bring Jell-O shots to a Christmas party. The only problem? The partygoers were 5th graders. She brought Jell-O shots into her daughter's elementary school for their annual Christmas party. So they look something like this. They're a huge hit with the kids, and within minutes, 36 of the 40 are gone. So a little bit of time goes by, a couple kids start complaining of a headache, a couple kids start complaining of a stomach ache, 2 kids start throwing up, and 1 kid who had 6 Jell-O shots straight up passes out. Teachers who are like, what in the hell is going on, smell the alcohol, send the kids to the nurse, and by 11:15 in the morning, the assistant principal has called 911. So the cops contact the bakery that made these Jell-O shots, and they're like, absolutely not. There's no way she didn't know there was alcohol in these. Apparently, the flyer that Teresa ordered from says contains vodka, and the bakery owner showed a correspondence of text messages where Teresa straight up asked the owner, do these contain alcohol? Which she, of course, said yes. Teresa has been arrested, and bail was set at $75K.
Why would she serve some kids some vodka shots? Like I said, the way they look, but they just look like regular freaking, Jell-O treats. You wouldn't even notice the difference until you smell it up close. People do not use their brains, man, in the mid 2025.
Here's great character, part 9. In Monty Python, the extras playing as guards were instructed not to laugh, but they had no idea what was coming in the next scene. Upon the mention of Biggest Dickus, one of the guards started breaking into laughter. After noticing this, Michael Palin decided to roll with it and began testing the other guards to see if they'd laugh. One guard was even sucking in his cheeks to prevent laughter because the other 2 had already failed.
Did you pass? I don't know if I can make the hold it in myself. When somebody tells you not to laugh, or doesn't it make you want to laugh more?
Now, apparently he thought that if there was no body, then he could not be charged with her murder. So he even had considered at one point using a handsaw or a NutriBullet to, quote, get rid of Harmony. Can you imagine that? As a parent, trying to dismember your 5-year-old daughter with a handsaw and a freaking NutriBullet. It is beyond horrific. Now, his wife, Kayla, Harmony's stepmother, helped him cut off Harmony's clothing, which were still on her frozen little remains, while he was literally trying to thaw her out again. That's what he would do. It was a pattern. Freeze her, thaw her, squeeze her, freeze her, thaw her. Like, it is so unhinged. Apparently, too, in another gruesome detail, as if it couldn't get more horrific, Kayla and Adam had sex while Harmony's remains were in the ceiling above them, decomposing, her bodily fluids seeping into the ceiling, and they were right below her, sleeping and having sex. How disgusting are you? I mean, guys, it gets way, way worse than this either. This is like the mild version, so I am breaking it all down for you over on my podcast, Serialously, but please be warned, is the most barbaric case I think I've ever covered to date.
On the night of September 8th, 1987, 77-year-old Minnie Clyde Winston got out of the bathtub and saw tiny droplets of a red substance all over the bathroom that hadn't been there just a short time before. She called out to her husband, 79-year-old William Winston, thinking maybe he had cut himself, but he was completely fine. They soon discovered the blood was all around the kitchen, the living room, the halls, the basement, and the crawl space. They called the police, but there was no sign of a crime. The investigation revealed the substance was human blood, but it didn't match either of the types of the Winstons, so
whose blood was it? How did it get there?
6 women have been found dead within 100 miles of the Portland, Oregon area over the last 3 months. And now residents are concerned that there may be a serial killer on the loose. These women all either lived in or often visited the Portland area. And while at this time it's unclear if their deaths are connected, investigators are looking into all possible connections. The first victim found was 22-year-old Kristen Smith. So far, according to the medical examiner, her cause and manner of death are yet to be determined. On April 8th, Joanna Speaks was found in an abandoned property about 22 miles north of Portland. She died by blunt injuries to the neck and head, and it is believed that her body was moved to the location where it was found. On April 24th, Charity Perry's body was found, and investigators said that there was an investigation into her suspicious death. That same day, another body was found, and this victim is yet to be identified. She was found in southeast Portland's Lentz neighborhood, and authorities are asking for the public's help in identifying her. It is believed she may be Native American or Native Alaskan and between the ages of 25 and 40. 6 days later, on April 30th, Bridget Webster was found. She was from Milwaukee and would visit the Portland area often. Her cause and manner of death have also been yet to be released. Investigators are looking into if all of these suspicious deaths may or may not be connected, and residents are very concerned that there may be a serial killer on the loose.
If I ever go missing, I hope these are the first people to come looking for me. The Midnight Order was formed by Dr. Sasha Reed, who's established one of the largest databases in the world on serial killers. She's already helped Canadian authorities catch one serial killer. Now she has a diverse team of women from around the world to help. Recently, Sasha was contacted by a woman who believes her ex-husband could be a serial killer, and this docuseries gives you an inside look into their investigations. They dive deep into these cold cases, interviewing families, visiting the crime scenes, helping in ground searches, etc. They also take a look at Canada's most infamous serial killer, Robert Pickton. He confessed to the murder of 49 women, but was only convicted in 6. Oh, and by the way, he recently died in prison. Watch Freeform's Sasha Reed and the Midnight Order, stream now on Hulu.
New York man convicted of killing a 20-year-old who mistakenly pulled into his driveway. The jury convicted 66-year-old Kevin Monahan of killing Caitlin Gillis. On April 15, 2023, officers responded to a report of gunshots fired. When they got to the scene, they found Caitlin Gillis with a gunshot wound. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Apparently, Caitlin Gillis and her friends were lost, and they were looking for a friend's house, so they mistakenly drove up Kevin Monahan's driveway. As they were driving away from his driveway, he decided to come outside and start firing for whatever reason. It was also reported Monahan was not cooperating with deputies at the scene. There were about 4 people in the car, and he fired a 20-gauge shotgun into the car, which hit Caitlin Gillis in the neck. In court, Monahan said the first shot was a warning, and the second shot was because he tripped and fell on some nails. His attorney said Monahan did not want to shoot anybody, but why else would he come outside with a shotgun and fire 2 shots? He faces 25 years to life in prison, and he will be sentenced in March. Hopefully he never comes out. Let me know what you guys think about the story in the comment section below, and reminder, these videos are for informational purposes only.
I think like mistakenly, like you said, do that. Obviously the intent, you came outside with the shotgun and fired 2 shots, so it wasn't a mistake at all. That's just like the story going around, because I don't know if you heard that they said a cop had shot, like I think another 20-year-old because she thought the person was a squirrel. I'm like, how can you confuse a person with a squirrel? It's not adding up.
This little girl here, her name is Terry Jo, and she would go on to survive the absolute impossible. But before I tell you what happened, hi, my name is Ashley, and I talk about crime, creepy, and unbelievable stories. If you're into that, then check out my TikTok and YouTube for more content. So the story begins when Terry Jo's father decided to rent out this luxury yacht called the Blue Belle for a family trip. It was to set sail from Fort Lauderdale in Florida all the way to the Bahamas. On the boat would be Arthur and his wife Jean, and their 3 kids, Brian, Terry Jo, and Renee. Arthur had also asked his friend and former Marine and former war veteran Julian Harvey to join him on the boat as the boat's skipper. Jean was also married to Mary Harvey, so he brought her along as well. So in total, there were 7 people on the boat. Everything had been going fine with everyone for the first 5 days, then things drastically changed. On the evening of the 5th night, Terry Jo said she woke up in the middle of the night because she heard a lot of noise coming from upstairs on the deck. So she goes upstairs and she hears her mother screaming. Then she sees her mother and her brother on the floor, and there was blood absolutely everywhere. She then sees Julian approaching her, so she asks him what's going on. He then slaps her across the face and orders her to go back downstairs to her room. So being a young child, she listens and goes back down. However, a short while later, she starts to see the water rising from the window. So she goes back upstairs and asks Julian if the boat is sinking, and he tells her that it was. Terry Jo then sees Julian jump into the only lifeboat on the ship and sail off into the ocean. At this point, she was completely alone on the boat when she remembered that there was a spare raft in one of the rooms. It was a very small raft, similar to this one here, but it was enough for Terry Jo's size. So having no other choice, Terry Jo throws this little raft into the ocean and then hops in. She would then spend the next 84 hours alone at sea. And at one point throughout those 84 hours, the net mesh that you see in the photo ended up disintegrating. So her only option at that point was to literally sit on the edge with her feet dangling in the water. Then on the 4th day, a passing ship spotted Terry Jo in the water. This was a photo taken of her rescue. So they help her, they bring her onto the ship and take her to the hospital. We would later find out that Julian unalived Terry Jo's entire family and his wife Mary. It's suspected that he was trying to unalive his wife to collect her life insurance. But it's assumed that Terry Jo's father, Arthur, caught him in the act and intervened. That's when he then proceeded to unalive the entire family. But that's not it. We would later find out that Julian actually survived the shipwreck as well. He was also rescued by a boat. And on the day Julian was rescued, he was also told that Terry Jo had miraculously survived. He pretended like he was happy to hear that. Terry Jo would then grow up to have a fairly normal life.
That story, man, it's mind-blowing.
Did you guys know that in 2019, Ashton Kutcher had to go to court over a serial killer? This is Michael Gargiulo. He's been dubbed by the media as the Hollywood Ripper or the boy next door killer. Michael would kill in his own neighborhood, and investigators would say this made it easier for him to stalk his victims. Michael's first known victim was 18-year-old Trisha Picatrio, who was also sisters with Michael's close friend. In 1993, her body would be found outside of her own home. She had been stabbed at least 12 times, and her murder would go unsolved for about 18 years. Just a few years after Trisha's murder, Michael kind of set off alarm bells when he went to visit Trisha's family home. He insisted on talking to Trisha's father, who was at work at the time. He waited over an hour for him to return home. But when Trisha's father returned home, he suddenly had to leave. This set off alarm bells with the Picatrio family, and they actually let the police know. But shortly after this, Michael moved to Los Angeles to pursue a career in acting. While Michael was in LA, he met 22-year-old Ashley Ellerin, who was an aspiring actress and fashion designer. She had also become good friends with actor Ashton Kutcher, who had asked her out on a date in February of 2001. Around 8:24 that night, Ashton called Ashley to let her know that he was running late for their dinner date. And according to Ashton's testimony, Ashley told him that she'd just gotten out of the shower, which made the prosecution believe that Ashton was probably the last person that Ashley spoke to while she was alive. Shortly after their phone call, Ashley was brutally murdered. Later that night around 10:30, Ashton showed up to try to pick Ashley up for their date. Such a side note, but Ashton, really? 10:30 for a dinner date? Okay. He knocked on the door several times and got no response. Right before he was about to leave, he peeked through the window and saw what he thought was red wine stains on the carpet. Seeing the stains, Ashton thought that Ashley had gotten sick of waiting for him and decided to go out that night on her own. The next morning, Ashley's roommate and friend would return home to find her friend brutally murdered. Ashley had been stabbed a total of 47 times. Now, Ashton would later testify that he immediately called the police when he heard about this because his fingerprints were on the door. Police quickly ruled him and another man that Ashley was dating at the time out of the case. However, it took them a long time to tie this crime to Michael. In the meantime, though, the other investigating officers were able to get a DNA sample from Michael that had matched some of the DNA left on the scene at Trisha's murder. But at the time, investigators ruled this DNA out because Michael had given Trisha a ride home the night before. And even though this DNA was found under Trisha's fingernails, they said this could have easily been transfer DNA. So they let him go, and in 2005, he murdered again, taking the life of 32-year-old Maria Bruno, who was also a mother of 4. At the time, police hadn't tied together the other 2 murders, and he left behind behind very little evidence at the scene of Maria's murder, leaving investigators stumped until 2008, when he attacked a woman named Michelle in her own bedroom. Michelle fought back, cutting Michael in the process, and he fled, leaving a trail of blood DNA behind him. This, along with Michelle's statement, would close all 3 of these cases, but it would take years for this to go to trial. Michael was sentenced to death in California over Maria and Ashley's murders. He is still awaiting a trial over Trisha's in Illinois. He claims to have up to 10 victims.
People are crazy.
I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is Maria del Carmen Garcia. This case takes place in Spain, just outside of Alicante, and in October 1998, Maria is cooking some dinner for her husband and her 13-year-old daughter, Veronica, when she notices that she's run out of bread. Maria went to Veronica asking if she wouldn't mind popping down to the shop and picking some up, and Veronica was happy to do so. She slipped on her shoes and walked out the door. As Veronica was walking down the street, a neighbour of hers, 62-year-old Antonio Cosme, was getting into his car. Recognizing one another, Veronica and Antonio smiled and greeted each other when, out of nowhere, Antonio grabbed Veronica, dragged her to his car, forced her inside, and then drove away. He would drive Veronica to a secluded wooded area. Hours later, he dropped Veronica back off in her street, and before he let her out of the car, he threatened her, telling her not to tell anyone what had happened. However, by the time Veronica went back into her home, Maria was already frantic. She had only sent her 13-year-old daughter down to the shop to buy some bread, and at this point, she had been gone for hours. After some gentle pressing from her mother, Veronica broke and told her everything, how she was walking down the street and Antonio forced her into the car. Immediately, the Del Carmen Garcias went down to the police station to report this. Bruises, scrapes and marks that were found all across Veronica's body supported what she was saying, proving that this horrible thing had happened to her. However, the local community weren't convinced. Antonio Cosme came from a very powerful, prominent, well-respected Spanish family, and due to his age as well, again he was 62, the local community didn't believe that he could do something like this, and so instead of believing Veronica, they branded her as a liar. Despite this, however, Antonio was charged, taken to court, and he was handed a sentence of 9 years imprisonment for this. Over the next couple of years, the mental health of the Del Carmen Garcia family deteriorated. Veronica allegedly spent some time in a psychiatric hospital, and Maria fell into a deep depression. Shockingly, after only serving 5 years of his sentence, Antonio was granted the ability to leave the prison on several day releases, much to the disappointment of Veronica's family, who at this point had lost all faith in the justice system. On the evening of the 13th of June 2005, Maria is stood at a bus stop just outside of Alicante when someone familiar begins to approach her. This person leans over to Maria's ear and whispers, quote, "How's your daughter?" before walking away smirking. Maria stood in shock and disbelief because that person was Antonio. He was out on a day release and he was taunting Maria. Her daughter had suffered for years due to this man's heinous actions, and now here he is, released from prison on day release, casually walking down the street, heading to a bar to go for drinks with his friends. Blinded with rage, Maria stormed to a nearby petrol station where she picked up a container filled with gasoline. She made her way to the bar where Antonio was drinking with his friends, and in a flash, she doused him in the gasoline, setting him on fire and burning him alive. Antonio would sustain 90% burns across his entire body, and he would succumb to his injuries in the hospital, dying a couple of days later. Maria would be arrested, and she received an outpour of support from her community. People would gather outside of the court and they would chant and cheer for her. A petition that was set up had over 10,000 signatures for Maria to be let off with the crime. Despite all of the support and the petitions, they didn't work. Maria would be found guilty, and upon appeal, she would receive a sentence of 5.5 years. The judge in this case recognizing that at the moment that Maria doused Antonio in gasoline and set him on fire, he wasn't in the right state of mind. At that very moment, she was temporarily insane. After serving her time, Maria del Carmen Garcia would be released from a prison in Alicante in 20...
Here are some fun facts you probably didn't know. The Mona Lisa was stolen in 1911 for 2 whole years, and the museum thought it was out for photography the entire time. Great white sharks are showing up consistently at a mid-ocean location that we call the White Shark Cafe for reasons we don't fully understand yet. China has over 3,000 miles of tunnels underground to transport intercontinental ballistic missiles. Inspired by how shipwrecks always create new reefs at the bottom of the ocean, New York City is now retiring subway cars in the ocean, dumping them to provide for new reefs. In Cluj, Romania, you can pay for your bus ticket by doing 20 squats. Meanwhile, elderly and disabled ride the bus for free, always. Bubble wrap was initially invented to be a wallpaper. Armadillos give birth to 4 identical quadruplets every time there's a birth. Genericide is the term we created when a trademark is lost because it becomes a generic name for that item. For example, escalator lost its rights when it became the general term for moving stairs.
Disturbing kid toys that were banned. Evil stick. Hidden behind the foilet, show a demonic young girl. Taiman stars. There was a hidden message inside the Thai Monstars that says turn off the TV. Odding time with Elmo. The Elmo toy was saying, who wants to die? Cuddle and coo doll. The doll was saying, Islam is the light. Cabbage Patch Kids.
Classic.
The doll almost ripped out a girl's hair.
How?
Sky dancers. It flew in random, unpredictable directions, which injured children and adults.
Having coffee injected into your veins could be one of the worst ways to die. This is another worse death imaginable. Viewer discretion is advised. This story happened in Brazil back in 2012 to an 80-year-old patient. One of her nurses was a trainee. She had just started, I think it was 3 or 4 days prior to working with her. This patient had 2 separate bags, and one of them was for food, the other one was for medicine. The 2 bags are really close to one another, and the nurse would later say it's really easy to get them confused. I don't know the circumstances behind this, but the patient, I guess, was getting coffee and milk, I believe, was supposed to be injected into the feeding portion of, the tubes. But the inexperienced nurse instead injected the coffee and the milk directly into the bag where the medicine was supposed to go. Almost immediately, the patient began to react. She appeared to be in some kind of trauma. She was having a very loud reaction to this. Unfortunately, once this happens, it's pretty much already too late. It took about 3 to 4 hours for this patient to die from what happened. The coffee and milk would run straight to, according to the doctors who worked on her, it went straight to her heart and to her lungs. And basically filled up her lungs, and it caused her to have the effect of drowning. Not to mention, it was actually a hot liquid. So slowly, this patient drowned because of this. And she passed away after being in some significant pain and discomfort. I know that the 23-year-old nurse was charged with involuntary manslaughter. However, I do not know the outcome as to what happened to her. But unfortunately, because of her inexperience, this poor woman suffered for a couple of hours.
Man, I need only experienced nursing doctors around me. Don't put the rookie on me, man. Because stuff like that will happen. Jam by coffee. Insane to think about.
I've never really been the one to believe in orbs, but someone explained this to me. Gabby Petito's family went to the location in Wyoming where her life was taken, and they all took a photo, and there was this thing that came up in the photo. Her family's convinced that that's her presence, and a lot of people also think the same thing, but I've never seen an orb that big. Others have had a different explanation for this, saying that it's the reflection of the sun with the lens, and that's why it created this thing. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
He took the life of her 3-year-old son so he wouldn't tell anyone about her affair. On April 28th of 2023, Dhyan Singh held an inauguration party for his new plastic store in India. Among the guests was Dhyan's neighbor Uday Indolia. Dhyan had no idea that his wife Jyoti Rathore was having an affair with Uday. While people at the party were busy socializing, Uday snuck off with Jyoti and they went to the terrace, and that is when they got physical with each other. But Jyoti had froze when she saw her 3-year-old son Jatin because he had followed her to the terrace. He had just witnessed everything that was going on with his mother and Uday. At this point, Jyoti is freaking out and she needs to come up with something, so she grabs her son and throws him off of the terrace, which was 2 floors. Jatin suffered serious head injuries and died the next day at the hospital. Jyoti's next plan was to lie to her husband and tell him that their son had fell off of the terrace because he had slipped. Because of this, she ended up having nightmares and hallucinations, and she ended up confessing to her husband. Dhyan recorded a video and audio of her confession and handed it over to police, and Jyoti and Uday were both arrested.
A cannibalistic family whose home is hiding an even darker secret. Let's talk about what might be one of the most terrifying games of the year. Cannibal Abduction. Full game playthrough on my channel. This is your worst nightmare. Your car stalls out deep in the American countryside and you're abducted by a family of cannibals. Explore the house, solve puzzles, and try to figure out exactly what's going on here. You know the family eats human flesh, but wait a minute, what was that noise? One of the family members knows you're here, and they are coming for you. Cannibal Abduction is an incredibly tense horror game that feels like the perfect slasher movie, and the twist ending was incredible and totally unexpected. Don't miss this one.
Any of the seekers, you guys play any scary games? Y'all know I'm not really tapped into the movies, man, but I might try that out. I don't know if I can survive that though. Cannibal Abduction.
This is why you need to look behind you before taking a selfie.
The innocence of this picture makes what happened even more haunting. 3 friends stand on railway tracks, hoping to capture the passing train on the tracks beside them. They took a selfie and were really excited to get a close proximity to the train. The wind was even blowing in their hair. But do you see that light? That is another approaching train. Now the girls couldn't hear that train on the track because they were so close to the other tracks and the other train. However, it was 12 seconds from when that photo was taken before the train made impact. Now, the train driver reportedly tried to blare his horn, but they must have assumed it was another train. 2 of the girls died on the spot and 1 later in hospital. For more 7 Sins crime, hit that plus button.
You gotta be with your surroundings, man. I'll never be on that train track trying to get a selfie. It ain't worth it, man. It's really not. Glad we're watching these clips, man. We learning, as always.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just 1 day after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has run away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callio is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
Just vanishing.
This next video was submitted to me by Sienna G, who received the following clip from her aunt. In the footage, Sienna's aunt is filming her son, who appears to be roaming around inside a room. Although initially thinking that her aunt had sent her a cute video of her little cousin, Sienna soon felt that something was off about the clip. It wasn't obvious at first, but upon watching it the second time, she instantly got chills. The clip, as it turns out, was sent to Sienna because something strange was captured. Have a look.
Let's check it out.
Let me take out the stuff from like this. Check it out.
Everything seemed normal so far. We saw that.
Come on.
As Sienna's aunt films her son, she catches something passing by in front of the camera, but it's really quick when it happens. At exactly 17 seconds into the video, a dark silhouette emerges from the left side of the screen before making its way across the room. By slowing the footage, one can see that something distinct is moving past the camera, but it's also when you slow the footage that the video gets even more creepy. Looking at the figure frame by frame, you'll notice that it has a full torso, and also what looks like an arm. However, one thing is missing, its head. Despite moving pretty fast, we can still make out what looks like a body, but nowhere in sight do we see a head. This fact alone is what spooked Sienna and her aunt upon looking closely at the clip. If no one else had been inside the room, then what was this? A definitive answer to this question has yet to be given.
So here are my personal reasonings why
ghosts
are a made-up fairy tale and that we need to stop believing them as a culture. Number one, little convenient that it's only at night that we see shit, right? You never see a ghost in the daytime. Darkness has this interesting quality about it that doesn't let you see. So, you're not going to be able to see well. So people are looking in the darkness and their eyes are trying to make sense of anything and they think they saw something. If you stare at the darkness long enough, you're going to see something. There's a Twilight Zone episode about it. There's also a thing called pareidolia, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a psychological phenomenon that makes you think you see faces and shit. Human beings evolved to understand facial recognition and, subtle cues to communicate, so we're really good at that, but we see faces and shit that's not actually there a lot of the time. Another thing, a lot of people say that children and dogs have a little bit more connection to the spiritual world. I just find it convenient that animals and babies seem to have more of a spiritual connection to that side of the world. Maybe because they can't fucking talk and they're notably stupid. You know why your dog was staring at the edge of the bed and growling? Because it is stupid. Because it has 3 thoughts in total it can have and it can't watch TV so it's bored. You know why your baby is staring in the corner and laughing? Because it doesn't know what the fucking human body can do yet. It's got the user manual and it's hitting random buttons and just trying shit out. Number 3, ghosts are most seen at spots that are spooky or deserted. What are the odds? It's always a spooky cabin in the woods or an empty mental asylum. How come it's never like, DMV? If the argument is that there's bad energy there because something horrible happened, how come there's no ghosts at the beach? People drown at the beach every day. Why are there no ghosts at the beach? Also, how come it's always a human ghost? The majority of things that have died on Earth are not human. They're like ants and shit. How come I don't have rat ghosts running through my apartment?
Was he spitting? I mean, some of the stuff it was making sense. But, everybody's gonna have their own beliefs, man. People believe in the paranormal. There are some instances where you can't explain, so.
This is what things look like under a microscope. Now you're probably wondering what this thing is that looks like a bunch of happy faces. Well, this might shock you, but that's actually grass. Next up we have a worm, and they don't look like they can hurt anybody, right? Well, once you see it underneath a magnifying glass, you might think different. And have you ever wondered what salt and pepper look like? Well, here it is. Why does it look like rocks and marshmallows? Now let's take a look at what a tiny ant looks like under a microscope. Here it is. Now that has to be the most terrifying one yet. Next up we have a human eye. Here's what it looks like under the microscope.
It's so detailed. Yeah, freaking things in a microscope, man. It really shows you, bro, how things really come together. But the ant was probably the most terrifying one. I didn't even know it could look like that.
How accurate police sketches are? Well, this sketch was actually pulled from someone's subconscious during hypnotherapy, so let's find out. In 1960, 4 teens were camping in Finland, and the last thing that this guy remembers was falling asleep.
When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and he learned that he and his friends were attacked through the tent and that none of his friends had survived. The only thing was that teen, Nils Gustafsson, didn't remember a thing after falling asleep that night. And honestly, that caused a lot of people to think he was responsible for his friends' deaths. So Nils goes to hypnotherapy to see if he can recall anything from that night, and during hypnosis, he starts remembering a face. This is what he described to the hypnotherapist as the person who attacked him and his friends that night. And while this is happening, this man gets admitted to the hospital. He has splotches of red all over his clothes, and the nurses said it looked like he had been running through the woods. And I'm sure you probably see it, but this caused him to be the lead suspect. I cover the whole story this week on the podcast, which has so many twists and turns, including what this guy has to do with the story, so make sure you check it out.
What is a true crime case that just haunts
you? This one is absolutely chilling. This is Susan Harrison. She was a mother and a wife, and she was described as an incredibly lovely person. In 1982, she met a man named Jim Harrison from her husband. They met because of her husband, and by 1988, they had both divorced their spouses and they got married. From the very beginning, this relationship was tumultuous to say the very least. Susan is not around to defend herself, but according to Jim, Susan would often become manic and she would start yelling and screaming and throwing things. These fights weren't just verbal altercations, they were often physical altercations. Now, Jim does say that he never physically did anything to Susan, that he only defended himself. This is Jim, and he is 100% adamant that he did not hurt Susan. But on the other hand, people who knew Susan said that this just wasn't like her, that they had never seen this side of her, especially her two sons, Nick and John. Susan's youngest son, Nick, remembers a night in particular where John was away looking at colleges and he was staying the night with Susan and Jim. And he says that he woke up at about 2 in the morning and heard them fighting. And then Susan ran into his room and said that Jim was hurting her. Nick decided he didn't want to stay, so he called John, his older brother's girlfriend, and asked if she would come pick him up. And she agreed to do that and told him to wait outside for her. He went outside to wait, but the altercation soon spilled out into the yard, and that's where he saw Jim physically hurting Susan. Nick says that he stepped in between Jim and said that he needed to stop hurting his mother. So he saw these physical altercations and saw that Jim was often the aggressor. But again, this is all alleged. This cycle would go on and off, with Susan leaving and trying to get restraining orders and then going back to Jim, as we often see in these kinds of relationships. But eventually it seemed as if Susan was stepping away from Jim, and she even started her own lampshade business called Shady Lady. But again, she would go back and forth and back and forth, and finally her boys told her that she could either live with Jim, but they would be out, or she could choose the boys, and of course she chose her children. On August 5th of 1994, Nick, Susan's youngest son, was going to Susan's house. They were going to visit relatives in Boston the next day, so he came the night before. When he arrived at Susan's house, he realized that the door was open and her keys were on the kitchen table, but there was nobody home. Nick waited in Susan's house until about 2 in the morning, but Susan never came home. So the next day he called John and let him know what was going on, and they called the police. We'll get into the investigation in part 2. Give me a couple of minutes to get it up. It should be down in the comments.
Dang, man, that case really sounds like it's about to be some twists and turns, man. I gotta find a part 2 for you guys. Try to find it for you. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up on this video, comment down below as well. Also, don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you're always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.